Yeah, 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 yeah.
Don't make you fucking beats.
I'm about my game. Live by the rules, we don't play the same. That's on my grave, that's on my name. I'm saying, I'm about my paper, about my game. I'm about my game.
Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Thomas Christopher of the League Winners coming at you live with another episode of College Football Now. This is the show where we get everybody from the League Winners group, most of us on site. We also get some other reporters who go on location, and we bring them on the show. We talk some college football, whether that's Group of Five or later in the show we do P4. Sometimes we'll switch it back and we do P4 in the beginning, but this time we'll do some G5. But make sure if you're watching this video, make sure you're liking it. If you're watching it on YouTube, make sure to like it, subscribe. It's completely free. It helps out the channel as well. This is a live show, so if you do have comments, feel free to comment and we will get to them live on air. And if you get to the comments after the show ends, we will make sure to get back to them within 24 or 48 hours after the show airs. If you're watching on Facebook or X/Twitter, please make sure to like it, share it. It's completely free. It helps us out, and leave a comment because we get those comments as well. First and foremost, hitting with the G5 Group of Five, I want to talk about the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens, who, to be honest, I mean, I don't think anybody was prepared to see them have Liberty drop 59 on them. Defensive coordinator for the Delaware Blue Hens, Manny Rojas, he has a very exotic scheme. He does a lot of stuff that confuses offenses. And for, a team that hadn't been performing as well in the Liberty Flames, now they're at 4-4. Delaware's at 4-4 too. They didn't have to rely much on Ethan Vasco. Instead, it was Evan Dickens, a running back, 22 carries, 217 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's a very impressive performance in that game. On the other side, I mean, it's the same thing I've been saying about Delaware for a few weeks now. They have to be able to run the ball. They can't run the ball. I know head coach Ryan Carty doesn't have an issue with the team not being able to run the ball. I know he's a pass-first guy. He always has been. He'll admit that. He'll be the first one to admit that to you. But when you're playing football, especially in the Conference USA, you have to be able to run the football. And this isn't just not going to get it done. Your starting quarterback, whether or not, if he's a dual-threat guy like Nick Minicucci, he's somewhat of a dual-threat guy, but he only had 37 yards in the game on 8 carries. He had the touchdown as well. But when you're talking about Byron Ellison, Joe Silver, they combined for 12 rushes for 49 yards. They, 4 yards per carry, not great, but or not terrible, but you have to be able to consistently and continuously run the football. I mean, they got out to, I mean, turnovers are have been a killer for the team, but and by the halftime, it was already 28-9, and they just gave up completely on the run. You got to try to slow the game down. Even if it's getting a little out of hand, you just got to try to start the game by running the football. It's something I think Delaware needs to do a lot more of, and I think that's why we're seeing teams start to kind of take advantage. I know turnovers are an issue, and Carty has talked about that. That's been kind of the Achilles heel of this Delaware team. But now, this week, they host, week 11, they host the Louisiana Tech team, and Louisiana Tech is not a joke, This is a Louisiana Tech team that is coming off, a 55-14 whooping on Sam Houston. I know Sam Houston's winless, but Louisiana Tech is 5-3 in the conference right now, and they're not a team that's going to pass the ball a lot. So it's something that Delaware struggles with, and I think they're going to actually struggle in this game too. I mean, Louisiana Tech's offense is circulated around their rushing attack. Amiri Higgins, Clay, I don't want to mispronounce his name, so I just apologize in advance. Clay Thevenin, and then we got Blake Baker, the quarterback. They all have over 300 rushing yards on the season combined. They have about 13 touchdowns, I think it is. They only fumbled the ball 3 times in total, and then they have another running back who they use on occasion as well, Andrew Burnett. Trey Kukok, backup quarterback as well. He gets some running. And the point being, Louisiana Tech is a very run-heavy team. And those kind of teams, I feel like, give the Delaware Blue Hens a lot of issues. Because, if we just look quickly at the stats of the receiving group right now, the receiving group for Louisiana Tech, they only have 2 guys over 300 yards, so not terrible. That's Eli Finley and Devin Gandy, and then they have Marlon Jackson at 264. Everybody else is at 131 or less. So it's a very run-dominant offense for Louisiana Tech. And I think Tech matches up really well against what Delaware is going to try to do in this matchup. So defensively, they have a coverage safety, Jakari Foster. He's fantastic. He's been targeted about 17 times, given up 7 receptions, but he has 4 pass breakups, 3 interceptions. I think his coverage grade is the best on the team. It's at like an 86.1 per PFF. He's not getting tested too often, and there's a reason for that. He's a lockdown guy. He's averaging an NFL quarterback rating of a 9.8 when it's thrown his way. And they do have another safety too, Jacob Fields. He also has an interception, as does Michael Richard. So they have a lot of safeties in that group, actually, and does Cam Franklin. So they have multiple safeties that they utilize, and they all are ball hawks, which doesn't bode well for what Delaware wants to do, because Delaware and Nick Minicucci, as much as I truly do love Nick Minicucci, I think he's a great quarterback in and of his own right. If they have no running attack, they become very one-dimensional very quickly. And against a team like Louisiana Tech, where you do have these ball-hawking safeties in the secondary, it starts to make you question, like, do I have the guys to have success there? Now, Kyrie Duplessis on Delaware, wide receiver, he's having a breakout year in his final year. So it's something you really like to see from a guy like that. But that's really it. Jake Thaw has been, hampered with injuries. But outside of that, nobody's really stepped up for the Delaware offense outside of, a key handful of guys. Nick Minicucci can't really keep doing it by himself. And it's getting to a point now where Delaware is going to be on dire straits if they're not able to overcome some of their issues, primarily, running the football and being able to stop the run. In college football, those are things you have to be able to do, especially when you're at the FBS level. Now, at the FCS level, you can kind of get away with it a little bit. I mean, you see some stuff with Monmouth there and Derek Robertson. They're doing fantastic things over with the Hawks, but they're primarily a pass-heavy team as well. And we've kind of seen what's happened with them, and they have not been able to perform, spectacularly. Sean Wilson has stepped up for Delaware, but he's been more inconsistent than what Delaware needs to have. They just really need more players to step up. I mean, even the tight ends, where are the tight ends being utilized here? There's just not a lot going around right now. Sean, he did lead, Sean, like I said, Sean Wilson, Kyrie Duplessis, Nicholas Aboy has not really been involved. Jakari Kelly and Max Peterson, a former Rutgers guy, he hasn't been involved either. Byron Ellison, while he hasn't put much on the ground as a rusher, he has been utilized a little bit as a passer. Elijah Sessions did have the touchdown, and then Donovan Lewis had also a touchdown in the last game. But, Jake Thaw only had 1 reception, 5 yards. I know there's some stuff going on with him, but let's face it, Gavin Moore, KT Saya, and Dylan Traynor in the defensive side of the ball for Delaware, they have to step up as well. It's both sides. It's not just the offense not being able to run the ball. It's the defense not being able to stop the run. And that's slowly becoming an issue, especially when turnovers are a problem, like they have been with Delaware so far this season. And it's, it's interesting because Nick Minicucci is playing himself into these, rankings and roles where, okay, he's a guy who can perform now, and it's hilarious. It's actually, it's great for him because Zach Marker, who was the original starter for the Delaware Blue Hens, got hurt in week 1. So we might not have ever seen this happen. We may not have ever seen Nick get in, take the job, and then be able to run away with the job and perform at the level he has. I mean, he's made some mistakes, but you got to remember, this is a guy who, going into the season, he wasn't expecting to start. Even in the spring game, as much as I think he looks great now, he wasn't necessarily the most impressive guy at the spring game either. That's something to keep in mind too. So it's a guy who's really learned on the go, and his gunslinger mentality has been able to keep him and Delaware not just in games, but it's able to make him have success, especially when he understands when to attack one-on-one situations. Delaware is such an interesting team because they're a team that, the jump from the FCS to FBS, you don't get any playoff or bowl berths or conference. You don't get any conference championship games, and you don't get any real bowl berths unless they run out of teams, and then you're kind of like a secondary option. But so that never makes too much sense to me as to why they don't give those guys opportunities coming up. Because I mean, look at SMU when they came up from the American and went to the ACC. They were in the ACC championship game in the first year. You would think that the rules wouldn't necessarily apply from the FCS to the FBS if a team's good enough to make that jump and then be able to have themselves in a position to make the championship game for their respective conference. I think you have to let them get that game if they earn it. It only seems right to me. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not. But I'm very interested to see how the rest of the season goes for Minicucci and the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens, because like I mentioned earlier in the show, he is getting added to all these lists. I'm very curious to see if they're able to keep him going forward, because you have to imagine that there's going to be other group of 5, 6, whatever you want to call it, teams going after Minicucci, especially potentially in the American, where the conference is perceived a little bit better than some of the other group of 5s. I apologize, a little brain fart. But and also, you never know if some of these P4s are going to be looking for guys too, and they're going to see a guy with a gunslinger mentality like Nick Minicucci, and they're going to think, hey, maybe he will fit for us. Maybe he does what we want to do. We want a guy who can be able to push the ball downfield, take shots in these one-on-one situations, and go from there. It's so interesting to see how that plans out. And I know we'll talk about the college football stuff going forward. But it's just, I really wanted to see how this is going to go down, because Conference USA right now is kind of being a one-sided thing where there's going to be a lot of spoilers. And Delaware has the chance, because they're not able to actually play in the championship game. They have a serious chance to play spoilers right now. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull it up, and for some reason it is showing Conference USA women's basketball, even though I'm clearly typing in college football. So give me 1 second as I pull those up, and it's still doing the same thing. That's absurd. So we'll bring it up right now. It's okay. This is actually super interesting to look at because the aforementioned Liberty that we're struggling, they're actually 3-1 in the conference. They are right now in a dark horse position with Missouri State to potentially be in the conference championship game. Along with them is Kennesaw State at a 4-0. We have Jacksonville State also at 4-0. Those two are at the top. Those two are the favorites right now. We have Western Kentucky at 5-1. So most of their games are just about over. Then we have Missouri State and Liberty, like I mentioned before, at 3-1. In 6th is Louisiana Tech, which Delaware can all but knock them out of any type of conference championship run. They might actually hurt them as well. Might hinder them in a bowl game if Tech is not able to get that. Because if Tech wins this game, they do get a bowl game. Western Kentucky's already there at 7-2, obviously, and Kennesaw State's at 6-2. Delaware, unfortunately, they won't get it, but they're right now at an even 4-4. It's actually kind of interesting, 2-3 in the conference. FIU, that you see us talk about a lot here, they're at 1-3. So the Conference USA is a little bit interesting. Delaware has a chance to play spoiler in some of these games. They also have a chance to do some interesting stuff because they face a Wake Forest team that I don't think people expected Wake Forest to be that good. I mean, they beat SMU. They've had some really close contests this year. I'll probably talk about them maybe a little bit more with Dan Tortora if he ends up stopping by. But I just thought it was very fascinating to see how Delaware has just played in their first year. I think it's beyond fascinating because we hear all these talk about how the difference in strength is from the FCS to the FBS level. And obviously there is some of that. Like, don't get me wrong, the worst team in the FCS is not going to be a competitive team in the FBS, but it shows that a lot of these good teams in the FCS that make the jump, they have the potential to truly compete with some of the group of 5/6, whatever we're calling them, teams. And now I think we're going to see that pretty soon with like a Monmouth as well. Monmouth, I wouldn't be shocked if they end up leaving the CAA and making the jump to potentially maybe even Conference USA sooner than later. I know they have a head coach there who's been around for a while. I'm gonna blank on his name right now. I think it's Kevin Callahan. I'll look it up right now. It is Kevin Callahan. He's been there for a while. So, he's 70 years old, older gentleman. I think that some of these other conferences want to see what that transition period looks like for a guy like after Callahan ends up leaving, how that transition period is, and if they're able to maintain that success. Because that's one thing. Callahan is a heck of a coach, and he's been able to keep Monmouth as a team that's been really great, to be honest with you, in the FCS. They just haven't been able to put it all together during the FCS playoffs to actually win a championship. But they've had offensive player of the years in, I think, the last 3 consecutive seasons, and they were on pace for it this year too. Excuse me, with Derek Robertson, their quarterback. He actually ended up getting hurt, though, so it remains to be seen. Point being, there's a decent chance Monmouth ends up being one of the next teams that comes up from that FCS level to the FBS, and it's so interesting to just see how that goes down from a football fan perspective. And we'll actually be talking, some more group of 5 stuff here soon. I'll actually have some guests if you're not. But if you're watching right now, please, if you're on YouTube, make sure you like the video. It's completely free to do so. If you're watching live and you have any questions, there's anything you want me or any of the guests to talk about, please comment. It's a live show. I will get to the comments. If you end up commenting after the show, then I'll get to them within 24 or 48 hours. After that, if you're watching on X/Twitter or on Facebook, make sure you like the video. It's completely free to do so. Leave a comment on there as well, and then we'll get to you. And I do actually have my first guest in the waiting room right now. He covers the New Mexico Lobos, and I think he just got out of covering a practice for them. We'll see. We'll dive on into a little bit of that. He's from Couch Potato Sports, and he does some written content for the League Winners. It is Daniel Zuniga. Daniel, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, my man. We just UNM just finished a practice, so I am in my car in the UNM parking lot. But glad to tune in and talk some ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously New Mexico just had a big win against UNLV this past week, defeating Dan Mullen at Allegiant Stadium. You were there for that game. Could you please just give anybody listening your thoughts on how that contest went and what surprised you, what you were looking at, what made you excited?
Oh my gosh. Well, by the way, for people unfamiliar with UNM, this is the most successful season they've had by far in decades. Every press conference we come into, the communications guy over here is always like, for the first time since 1960 something, this thing has been broken. So first off, that's it. Somebody who's watched every single UNM game, something they struggled with, and it's also in a way impressive, is the turnover margin and slow starts. So, and keep in mind, before the UNLV game, they were 5-3, and most of the games they struggled in the turnover department. And kind of like these late starts where they'll be down 10, they'll be down 7, they'll be down 14, but then they find a way to rally. And what really surprised me the most about this UNLV team is the Lobos defense has been the strength this season. The offense has been, picking up their way as it goes, and they've been solid for the most part, but they haven't been asked upon to drive down the field and win the game, Right. So UNLV scores, Calandria throws a pass there, and they take the lead there with 6 minutes left to go. And the offense is called upon to go win us the game. And, that's something that we haven't seen from the UNM offense all year. They answer the call. They march down the field. Jack Lane was targeting Keegan Johnson, former 4-star, former Kansas State, former Iowa Hawkeye player. And Keegan Johnson came up big in some contested catches. They drive down. DJ McKinney scores a touchdown. And with that, it's like you're really starting to not – you've just seen the Lobos do it in so many different ways where it's like, okay, you fall behind, then you win. Your defense will win you the game. The offense will win your game. We've seen it all now with the Lobos. And it was very nice to see from the offense. And also the fast start as well. They were up 21-0. And then they gave 21 back, but nonetheless, it was their first I would say their second fast start of the season, because the Utah State game they started off firing all cylinders as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that win puts them at 3 wins in a row. That's the second hottest team in the conference right now behind, I think the leader is San Diego State, they're at a 6-game win streak. They've been impressive this year. And, now they kind of leapfrog UNLV in the conference standings, tied with Hawaii. Fresno State's above them, and then the aforementioned Boise and San Diego State. How realistic do you think the chances are that Coach Eck can kind of get the Lobos into a conference championship?
Geez, well, it'd be freaking awesome. I think all UNM fans, I think New Mexico would be going absolutely nuts just to even, be one of the two teams playing for a conference championship. But like Coach Eck mentioned today in today's press conference, they're not in a position where they control their own destiny. They could there is still a path, like a solid path that they could make the Mountain West title game. But as of right now, the way things are at, they do not control their own destiny. Who knows though? Maybe in the next week or two, something will change, and that will change things for them. What I do know is that the regular season finale is going to come against San Diego State, and they're going to be playing at University Stadium at UNM. And right now, I mean, the call is really on the fans of UNM to start packing the house, because something that's been the word of town around here is, of course, like the hardest games that UNM has played, Michigan, Boise State, right? Like those are the two hardest teams they played. But the two most emotionally charged games, NMSU, the rival in state New Mexico, and then the return of Bronco Mendenhall. So they won those two emotionally charged games. So the hope is that the fans will really start to buy in and kind of use the home crowd as a weapon. And, that last week, who knows, maybe it could come down to some Mountain West title implications. And that is certainly the hope around here. And with bowl eligibility, man, everybody's celebrating. Well, you can tell that there's a sense of urgency from Coach Eck, in the sense that, we're not, like, it's not done yet. Our
I think we might have lost Dan. Just for anybody listening, Dan is actually right outside the practice facility for New Mexico, and I think he might have lost some service there in that brief discussion. We'll see if he ends up coming back on. I'm going to take him out for right now, and if he ends up coming back on, which I think he might, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, you were able to hear the beginning part of his answer, and I think that is something that's very important for New Mexico, is that, it's not over. This is a step in the right direction for Coach Eck, for the Lobos themselves. Speaking of, they talked about that they needed a little help. Currently, San Diego State is on top in the conference, but they do have a very difficult end of year conference schedule. They face Hawaii, who they are another dark horse who could potentially find themselves in the Mountain West championship game. And then they do face Boise State, and as Daniel got to before he was cut off, before he disconnected there, San Diego State does go to New Mexico, and that'll be a very interesting game for the Lobos. And then if we look at Boise State's schedule, they have it kind of easy for them. I mean, they do have that San Diego State matchup that is not this week, it is the week after that. So they get a bye at the perfect time after their loss to Fresno State, by the way, who did beat them 30-7. So there's not a lot of consistency there yet from the Mountain West teams. Hopefully they're able to pull it together, but it's a lot of some guys need help, some don't. It's always interesting how teams start fast and some start slow. Some guys find their groove a little bit later than others. And I think it's important for, a team like New Mexico. But going into the season, New Mexico was one of the teams ranked towards the bottom at the Mountain West Media Days, if I'm not mistaken, by people that actually cover the conference. And now they're sitting there, and they are number 5 in the conference. They're the last team with a winning record in the conference. We've talked about those teams before. It's San Diego State, Boise, Fresno, and then Hawaii. Then it's the Lobos. But it's just been impressive with the way that they've been. I'm hoping that maybe Daniel's able to come back and not have his internet cut out on him in the lot there. But just for anybody listening, he was the reason why he did cut out, he was at the Lobos practice facility, just ending practice. He's a fantastic guy, able to try to come on this show for us and talk some Lobos football. He may end up being back when his surface gets a little bit better. We'll see how it is. I do have another guest in the room. I might throw him in a little bit early so you guys don't have to see my mug for 20, an extra 10 minutes here. This is our Eastern correspondent for the league winners, my good friend, Brandyn Pokrass. Brandyn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Not going to lie. I'm used to the show starting at 8. So technically the show's still starting at 8 because I'm here. But it seems like Daniel was doing a great job before I got here, before the internet kind of messed things up. But happy to be back. Things are getting hectic. Things are getting crazy. We're getting in the crunch time. This is, when you get into a football season, specifically the college football season, these are the moments you get excited for. These are the games you get excited for because, the first college football playoff rankings are set to be released in very short order tonight.
Yeah.
That's finally here. We're having jockeying for conference championship appearances, teams that you would have never expected to even be in contention for some of these games are in contention. Some teams that potentially you thought would be in contention are either out of it already completely or are on the outside looking in and need a lot of help. This is what you live for. This is what you want. And I'm very excited to see where things go from here.
Yeah, I completely agree. And he is back. I'm going to bring him in right now. Daniel is back with us. Daniel, I think you lost some service there. So if you wanted to continue on your conversation regarding the Lobos, feel free to have at it. We haven't dug any further.
Yeah, no, UNM's going to be the national champ. That's what I was going to finish with. No, I'm just kidding. But no, UNM's having a phenomenal season, and right now the Mountain West. I mean, you got San Jose State, who just beat Hawaii, who look like the best team out there. There are guys who can punch in the Mountain West. So, UNM's going to be playing Colorado State and then Air Force on the road before San Diego State. They got to just keep focusing and take care of business here the next couple of weeks before obviously the big regular season matchup. And I did hear, at the media days, they were ranked 11th out of 12 teams. So they're picked on the bottom two to finish in the Mountain West. So it's looking a lot better. And Jason Eck is, not even a lot better. Historically, it's the best season they've had in a while. And Jason Eck, as I'm pretty sure the whole nation knows, is appearing in a lot of head coaching vacancies and stuff like that. And so, I guess that's just what happens. Successful coaches at like kind of mid-tier programs, they're gonna get that kind of attention. So.
Yeah, 100%. It's actually interesting, too, because San Diego State and Boise State do have a big matchup. I don't think it's this week. I think it's on the 15th. So that could potentially be a game that knocks one of the other teams out. And, you never know how teams respond to adversity. So that could either be the preview to a future conference championship, or it could be the game that potentially has a team find themselves on the outside looking in. I did want to ask you, though, Daniel, do you think that Eck could potentially end up leaving New Mexico?
I mean, of course, right? This is the guy who, in his opening press conference, recounted the times where him and his wife were calling each other and saying, "Hey, should we use the credit card?" Or "We don't have any money in our bank accounts." Like when he was positional coach and kind of working his way up through the ranks. I think he has earned every right to. If he did leave, I would be nothing but happy for his family. Do I think he's going to leave? I have gotten no indication of that at all. One thing that I will say about Eck is that, from what I've, what I've covered in the press conferences and the demeanor and being at these practices and all that stuff is, it's not about the money at all. I think it's more about the support. And I think that's a lot even with Bronco Mendenhall and so many coaches here at UNM. I think that there's this big misconception that, they're just dashing for the money. But with Bronco Mendenhall, it was his family. It was his wife that it sounded like there were some people that weren't comfortable over here in New Mexico. And of course, to go home and to be close to friends and family, that must have been very important for Bronco Mendenhall. and Jason Eck, and I think it matters. It's part of the process too. He's a father. He has 4 or 5 kids, and a lot of them, are growing up. So that's like family aspect. That's going to be very important to him.
Right.
He has a very close relationship with the UNM AD over here. I mean, close. Like they see eye to eye. It's a great pair. It's a great match. Sean Payton mentioned that when he got hired for the Denver Broncos, that, it's like that is very important. That relationship that you have with the, with the front office people, the people calling the shots. It's like, you got to be in communication. You got to be the same kind of wavelength about football. So with that being said, being somebody that's in here, I'm not really losing sweat about that. He's going to dash in the season for like, I don't know, Wisconsin or some big job or anything like that. I'm not on that boat. If it happens, it's like, hey, happy for your family, man. The only one that I've been thinking about the last 2 days where I'm like, okay, I can see a world where maybe this happens is there is going to be a vacancy at Stanford. Frank Reich is just there for the end of the season. Andrew Luck is the GM. He was just on Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, but the way he talks about football, like, this is an Eck guy. Like, this is a guy that, that I can see, like, they share the same wavelength of, like, football, caring for the players, brotherhood, like, all that is very Eck-like. And, that's the only one that I would say, in my opinion, would be like, oh, that one wouldn't shock me at all. The rest of them,
Uh-oh. Did it happen again? Oh, no.
Right in the middle of the sentence, too. Oh,
yeah, that's brutal. That's what happened to him last time. I'm going to see if I can pull him out. Just for anybody listening, that was Daniel Zuniga of Couch Potato Sports. He was gracious enough to come on the show while just leaving the Lobos practice facility. I'm going to text him and tell him that if he has some time constraints, to not worry about returning, because he did end up staying, and I do appreciate him. But it's about that time. We might actually see some college football rankings pretty soon for the playoff. Brandon, do you think there's going to be any surprises that we see here?
You want to know what's the one thing I'm watching the most? To be completely honest with you, just top ahead. Obviously, I haven't done a ton of prep because who the hell knows? It's the first college football ranking. I am fascinated to see how Miami and Notre Dame are ranked, because that is going to give a lot of insight into how things are going to lean in certain scenarios. Are they going to value the fact that Miami beat Notre Dame? Are they going to value the fact that Notre Dame's look better than Miami? Are they going to value the certain opponents? There's a lot of different things where you look at it and it's like, okay, it could go this way, it could go that way. I'm very fascinated to see that. I'm also fascinated to see how they position non-P4 teams. I'm truly fascinated to see, let's say, for example, right now, where does Memphis slide in these rankings? In terms of, the at-large bid, I don't know if they're there, but I feel like they need to be in that conversation. Quite frankly, I think any team in the American needs to be in that conversation right now, whether it's your North Texas, whether it's your Navy, whether it's your USF. I mean, even if you want to make an argument for Tulane, you could. They do have a victory over Duke, who looks like they could potentially make a run towards the ACC. Those are just kind of the two things I'm really looking at, because otherwise I'm just fascinated and excited to find out.
Yeah, I think that's the craziest thing, is that I'm very curious to see how they handle the G5, G6, whatever we're going to call it. I'm going to call it G6. And yeah, anyway, I'm curious to see how they handle
G5
that.
And G5 this year, G6 next year, technically.
Yes, technically. I'm curious to see how they handle that, because like you said, like if USF ends up running the table, are they worthy to end up getting a playoff spot? I personally think they should. I think there should be at least two.
Well, I mean, if USF runs the table, they're winning the conference championship game. I think your bigger discussion is, let's say, for example, you get your Memphis USF showdown in the conference championship game, or let's say somehow it's a Memphis USF, or not Memphis USF North Texas rematch, right?
Right.
Are they still going to value North Texas based on et cetera, right?
Yeah. That's what's going to be. I'm curious too. How do you think a team like James Madison ends up faring in all this?
Depends. They don't have the P4 win, right? Like they don't have that win over the team. Like they don't have the Florida win or the Boise State win. They don't have the Arkansas win. They don't have the Duke win. It's just It's tough. Like, by the way, I will say this: if they had beat Louisville, they're probably above everybody in the American because of what Louisville ended up doing to Miami. And they also didn't get blown. They didn't get ran off the field by Louisville. They had control of that game for a good 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter, Louisville's talent kind of just won out.
Right. Yeah. And plus that was a situation. I mean, we've talked about this off air where Chesney and Alonzo Burnett might have been not have been completely healthy at the time. And he was running, a dual quarterback kind of thing with him, with Alonzo Barnett and Matthew Sluka. Yeah.
They are starting the reveals, by the way. So I can give you them as they're coming in. I do have the stream up.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
But yeah, even if it was, technically a 14-point loss by James Madison. I mean, I don't know if anybody watching that game knows, but James Madison was actually at the 1-yard line at the end of that game. They could have punched it in. Maybe they should have. Maybe it looks a little bit better. But for now, is that face that a team's been announced as?
So your first 2 teams, number 25 is Tennessee. Number 24 is Pitt.
Oh, okay.
At 7-2. Number 23 is Washington at 6-2. So we have had 3 revealed so far. And I wonder how long they're going to drag this out with commercials. Number 22 is Missouri at 6-2.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And number 21, drum roll. It's not paying off right away. But as you're hearing the team up, number 21, we have the Michigan Wolverines. So when you hearing that group of 5 teams, what's the first thing that comes into your mind?
Man, that's got to be rough, right? None of them mentioned in the top 20 there, 25, like in those final 5 spots, 20 to 25. You have to be hard pressed to believe that they're going to be in that 15 to 20 range. Maybe we see Memphis there for right now. I have my doubts. It's just, if you're a G5 fan, even a G5 football player, coach, AD, anything, you're looking at this and like, what do we have to do to earn some respect? Especially after we've seen some G5 teams beat P4 teams. What are your thoughts on it on this?
It's tough, right? Because now we're moving on to the next portion of teams. Number 20 is Iowa, right? And now you're starting to get into your Big Ten teams, right?
Right.
I echo what you're saying in the sense of it's very tough right now. It's very tough with these for the initial rankings. We're not even talking about the final ones. It's going to be very tough to see the fact that a team that isn't in the ACC, the Big 12, the SEC, or the Big 10 have to win a conference championship to even get remote consideration. Right. And I'm not even talking about the entirety of the general group of 5, as 3 more teams have been revealed: Iowa at 20, USC at 19, Miami at 18. I'm not even talking about the entirety of the group 5. Just look at the American, right? Look at the teams USF has beat. Look at the teams Memphis has beat. Look at the teams that North Texas has played, right? Navy has a matchup with Notre Dame, Tulsa beat. Like, this is not a bad conference.
No, it's not.
And the next team to be revealed, Georgia Tech, all the way down at 17. So, yeah, it really looks like we're not going to even have a group of 5 team in this discussion. And the last one, 16, Vanderbilt.
Interesting. That's a little absurd to me. Maybe I genuinely don't understand it. I think they're trying to pull. It almost seems like, powers that maybe are trying to purposely separate 2 FBS sections. I mean, they already kind of started to do that with the P4 denomination and with the G5 denomination. But it seems now it's becoming more evident than ever that they're trying to do that.
As more teams are being revealed, 15 through, I think this is going to be 11 or 10 range is being revealed. Louisville's at 15, Virginia's at 14. I think we have our answer here. And Utah is at 13. At what point do the rest of these conferences, and we're talking like your non-Power 4, like we discussed, at what point do these conferences, and I've seen this idea float around, when do they create their own thing? When do they basically go to a TV network or two and be like, hey, we're going to do our own thing and we'll still be under the FBS umbrella, but we're going to just crown a winner of the group of 5. We're going to do our own playoff thing, kind of like an NIT in college basketball, right? I just, at the end of the day, how can you get that exposure? How can you get that same fanfare for those teams when it's so crystal clear that it's just not going to happen? And the next team to be revealed has been Oklahoma. So if you're following along, starting from 15 up, 15 is Louisville at 7-1, 14 is Virginia 8-1, 13 is Utah at 7-2, 12 is Oklahoma at 7-2, 11 is Texas at 7-2.
That's interesting. That's
so
a big jump.
Texas above Utah, Virginia, and Louisville. So that's I want to see the rest of the rankings because that's bringing another fun discussion to the table about certain conferences getting their way or not.
Yeah, it seems, there's definitely seems to be a bias, I guess we'll say, for the SEC there. That's very surprising. And if you guys are listening, if anybody's listening right now, make sure you leave a comment. This is a live show. We do get to the comments. Make sure you're liking the video. Subscribing. If you're watching on YouTube, it's completely free to do so. If you're watching on X/Twitter or Facebook, if you like it or leave a comment, those show up as well. Judging by Brandon's face, I'm assuming something very interesting just happened. So Brandon, I'll let you take the conversation.
They have put in the first college football playoff ranking Notre Dame at number 10.
That's high. That's high.
Above, and that's the second answer to the question that I was discussing. That is a good handful of spots above the University of Miami. So It looks like we have our answer. They do not care about week 1. And there's also a team that we have not heard yet in this college football playoff ranking. Means they don't care about that week 1 game yet either. And that is the University of Alabama. So very clear that Notre Dame, once again, as they have done so many different times in the playoff era, the BCS era, utilizing that independence non-conference label to run a table and get into a playoff once again.
Yeah, it's very curious. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we all kind of like thought in the back of it, this is how it's going to happen.
Everybody was discussing this. Everybody. Yeah. Number 9 has been revealed. Oregon at 7-1. So I think you're going to start seeing the
interesting
powerhouse is listed here. Very surprised to see Oregon all the way down at 9. I think that's a byproduct of I don't think the committee thinks they've played anybody, and the one team they've played they didn't beat in Indiana, who's probably going to be top 5 and up. I would assume.
Yeah. Hopefully
not lower than 3. I've seen crazier things though.
That'd be insane.
It's so funny. I alluded to it. I talked about it right when I got on, and the Notre Dame thing happens immediately. And number 8, Big 12 getting some love, Texas Tech at 8-1.
Okay, I don't mind Texas Tech there. I'm still kind of shocked about the Notre Dame one because their best victory.
Big 12 getting more love. BYU at 7 at 8-0.
Okay, BYU deserves that, but. I mean, Notre Dame, their best victory was USC, and USC hasn't really beaten anybody either.
USC almost lost in Nebraska.
Right. So that's where I'm like, okay, they got 2 losses. Yes, they're against good teams, but they haven't beaten anybody. That one baffles me. That seems like a lot of bias there. Of course, obviously, we didn't see USF, and actually, we do have, of course, one of our beat writers for USF. I might have said USC. I'm all over the place. She's a beat writer for USF. We all know her. We all love her. It is Mackenzie Neglia. Mackenzie, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Busy, but always love getting to talk to you guys. And we have a big American Conference game again this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been watching the college football playoff, rankings come in. No USF yet? Question mark. Brandon, who's popping?
So the last three to be revealed: Ole Miss at 6, Georgia at 5, Alabama at 4, Texas A&M at 3. I think that leaves your last two to be a mixture of Indiana and Ohio State, which not surprising. Honestly, kind of feels like a lot of chalk, and we'll move back to our USF discussion, which is pertinent to this, of course, after. But I feel like the biggest surprise for me is Notre Dame at 10, right? I kind of just hearing that list, the biggest surprise, Notre Dame at 10, second biggest surprise, Memphis not even near the list.
Right. That's kind of my take too. I mean, Mackenzie, are you surprised that no group of 5 teams were mentioned in the CFP's top 25?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make the argument for Memphis at this point. They've been in the polls the last couple of weeks. USF was in that conversation. North Texas was getting votes too. I mean, it is kind of surprising, they don't get, any kind of representation at all, or up until the point of, until that American Conference championship potentially.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate that that's what it has to come down to for even, because we all have to assume like that's what's going to lead to them like selecting a group of 5 school is that conference game. And it's kind of upsetting, I guess is the word, that's what it kind of comes down to. I mean, maybe I'm wrong in that. I mean, I wouldn't even have minded to see San Diego State get some love or some votes, because they haven't played too many good teams, but the record speaks for itself. They're just showing some type of love to some of these group of 5 teams. And obviously you guys are going to be watching one of these aforementioned group of 5 teams that we just talked about in the USF Bulls on Thursday as they take on the UTSA Roadrunners, who probably knocked off Tulane from the list of teams that could find their way to a college football championship. Brandon, I'm going to start with you. What are you looking forward to in this matchup?
The rebound, right? So at the end of the day, the bye and everything that transpires after the bye, especially with UTSA getting that upset win, I think in a very roundabout way, it benefits USF. Because, look, does the loss to Memphis hurt their at-large chances? Yes. Does the loss basically mean they can't lose another game this year if they want to, A, either make the conference championship game, or B, compete for a college football playoff appearance? Yes. However, what it does do is make sure that you aren't overlooking any opponent anymore. Because I think a very interesting factoid that would have arose is the Hayden moniker of the trap game. Because if USF doesn't have that fourth quarter and Memphis doesn't catch fire and flip the game on its head in 15 minutes of game time, USF has 1 loss on the year, is absolutely rolling, looks to be the group of 5 team. The media coverage probably would have increased. There's a good shot if USF is the 1-loss team and not Memphis, they're probably included on this selection show tonight as just an at-large team because of their wins over Boise State, because of their win over Florida, because of their win over Memphis. Right. I think that would have been the case. Then with a UTSA team that can surprise you, you now enter a trap game situation on a Thursday. Now, no margin for error. USF saw that UTSA has the capability to beat one of the better teams in the conference in Tulane. Now you're not overlooking them. Now this team, I'm very confident, is going to be ready to roll. It's going to be ready to play its best on both sides of the football, and is really just going to elevate its game like they have 95% of the time this season. Right? This is not a team that is back down from a challenge. This is a team that, outside of Miami and one quarter against Memphis, has taken care of business and risen to the occasion. I think that, unlike Tulane, USF has a defense that can really shut down, or if not shut down, because Robert Henry Jr. is an incredible running back, at least limit him. They have done a very good job with that. I don't trust Owen McCown to consistently push the ball against this USF defense. They've been very good at limiting big plays over the course of a 4-quarter game. Obviously, there's things that happen over the course of a game, a quarter here, a quarter there. We saw that once again against Memphis.
Right.
But over the stretch of things, I think that they're going to be able to do enough. And more importantly, I don't think this UTSA defense is going to do much in the way of stopping Byron Brown and this USF offense. I really think that if the defense does their job, the Bulls are going to score a lot of points, and this can be a game that they use as a springboard to head into the Navy Week, which is essentially their season.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Navy Week, because it's great that they got the bye leading up to this UTS game.
And then they have this
exactly. Yeah. And that's going to be important. And kind of speaking about that rest, Mackenzie, you got to ask, Alex Golish about how he felt the bye impacted preparation and everything against this UTSA team. Could you just talk about what his answer was and what were your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, the bye week felt kind of long, but it was much needed, and it was utilized in terms of like mental recovery, physical recovery. But they also gave. I'm sorry, I'm not talking English.
It's okay.
Head coach Alex Golish also gave us injury updates. So Alvin Isaac was banged up from the Memphis game.
Yeah.
He's fully recovered. He should be good to go. Chaz Nimrod has been out for the last couple of games, but he has been working really hard to get back. He's questionable right now, so it'll be a game time kind of decision. But either way, he's been very impactful for USF. And then overall, they're very excited to be back at home for this game and have that hometown crowd.
Yeah, I think being at home too is also important, because they're not coming back and then having to go into enemy territory. They're coming back and they're playing, in front of their home crowd. While they don't have but they don't have a football stadium, on campus yet. Fan interaction has been important. You actually asked Medea Rubin about that. So I wanted to hear, for anybody listening, what his thoughts were and what that means to you.
Yeah, I mean, Mudia was kind of talking about how, he played at Stanford previously, and,
right.
The support from the students here has been really, really special to him and to the team. And I think I'm very lucky to kind of have this like unique perspective of like, I started at a different school, ended up at USF. My first school didn't have a football team. I kind of came here, and one of the first things that people told me was like, this isn't a big football school, if that's like what you're looking for. And I've been here for a few years, and I've gotten to, my first year here was Alex Golish's first year. You kind of grow alongside, some of these guys who have been here, like Byron Brown and Jalen Schuler, and these guys that you get to know. They're like friendly faces around campus.
Right.
They're classmates. You see them in Chick-fil-A a lot. But those guys who, they're very, very involved with the student body, and they always kind of prioritize that. So the student section supporting them definitely means a lot.
Yeah, I think it's truly fantastic. And while it may not be enough yet of a home crowd to, I guess, have that home crowd. I mean, it's going to be hard for any college football team to really fill an NFL stadium. But that's why the building team and what they are going to be able to do and impact in future years is going to be great. And that starts with building blocks. And Brandyn, I want to go to you quickly. What you've got to watch this team grow every week as well. You've got to see what they've been able to put on the field. What are some of the building blocks that Alex Golish is setting in his foundation in your eyes? And how do you think that those building blocks can help USF take the step, not just for this year, but for years to come?
That's a fantastic question. I think the biggest thing is culture. The biggest thing that stood out to me after the spring game was when I asked Alex Golish about the transfer portal. He specifically mentioned, obviously they want to add guys that are talented. Every football coach does. But They want to add players that contribute to the culture, and they're not even looking at guys that don't. Mackenzie brought up Medea Rubin. That was a guy they added in the portal and has immediately contributed to this culture. Look at a guy like Chaz Nimrod. Look at a guy like Wyatt Sullivan. Offense, defense, special teams, they've all contributed to this culture. And I think when you look at a college football team that isn't drowning in resources, that isn't basically able to get whatever player they want, that isn't a P4 level school, that is the most important thing. So I think when you go out from that, and obviously there's an element of retention and, can you keep guys in the portal? Can you keep the coach, right? Like, it's the unfortunate reality of the modern college football landscape that not a lot of people are focused on the here and now. It's always, hey, where are they going to go in the portal? Hey, what P4 school is going to give them $5 million to go play for? It's always the next thing. But when you look at it in the now, I'm a huge fan of the running back room, right? I think there's some very talented players, whether it's Nakai Davenport, Chase Garnett, when he played against North Texas, looked like one of the better running backs I've seen just in terms of burst and explosiveness on the field, right? You look at wide receiver, true freshman Jeremiah Koger, 4 touchdowns in 4 straight games. That's a true freshman. That's not even including a Christian Neptune. That's not including some of these other young guys they have. Jonathan Eccles at tight end. The offensive line, they have some very intriguing guys. On defense, you have a guy like an Ira Singleton that is truly growing into being a defensive player and a defensive weapon for the Bulls. They're sprinkling in some of their other linebackers and defensive backs. And the fact that this is a team that's competing, but it's also a team that is working young guys in and getting guys comfortable and allowing guys to grow. I think that's the most important thing, because players come and go in this era of college football. You're going to get recruiting classes. They're going to come and go. I think the biggest thing is that Golish does have a lot of really talented players on this roster. And I think that's going to continue to be the case as long as he's the coach, because of the culture that he's establishing in Tampa.
Yeah, I think that's going to be important. And I think he's doing a great job. I mean, we're seeing some counterparts, even with within his own conference, not utilizing the youth to be able to have that sustained success.
We'll get there.
We show guys. Yeah, we'll have
we'll
a
get
little bit
there.
of talk there. Yeah. But before we go there, Mackenzie, before I get you out of here, I ask you every week. I'm putting you on the spot once again. Prediction time. Who ends up winning? Does USF hold it down at home, or does the UTSA Roadrunners run away with things?
Yeah, I think that UTSA has this really good. They're coming off a good front with their win against Tulane, and they look like a much better team than their record kind of shows. But I think that they're going to try to catch USF off guard in some ways. They're going to capitalize on maybe missed opportunities. But I think the main goal for USF is that they can't let the result of the Memphis game falter them in any way. They have to come out strong. You have to play, smart football. This is their rebound game, and they need to win this game before they go on the road to Navy.
Yeah, that Navy matchup is going to be huge. I'll be there for that one. Hopefully it has some meaning, and that means USF getting it done. Mackenzie, before I let you get out of here, can you just let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, all of my USF coverage is on my X, so it's at my first and last name, Mackenzie Neglia.
Awesome. That's Mackenzie Neglia. She is our USF beat reporter. Mackenzie, thank you so much for coming on. We love to have you on. Can't wait to see you next time.
Of course. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night.
Thanks.
You
Take
too.
care, Mackenzie. That is Mackenzie Neglia. You can find her and all of her content covering the USF Bulls at her X/Twitter at Mackenzie, Mackenzie, Neglia, Neglia. Make sure you guys follow her. She does fantastic work. Brandon, what's up?
before we move on, I want to state what the initial matchups for the college football playoff would be if things ended today.
Okay, I'm interested in that.
Memphis would be the group of 5 team, according to this bracket. Memphis would number 12 seed Memphis would open up a number 5 seed Georgia.
Interesting. Okay.
Which is fascinating because that's USF's spot. And USF playing Georgia, a team that struggled with Florida. Very interesting. I'm just going to leave it at that.
That would be an interesting matchup for USF. Personally, I think if that matchup is what it is for the group of 5 team, I like USF's chances much more than Memphis there.
Very interesting, and I'm going to leave it at that. The winner of that would have the privilege of playing the University of Alabama, the number 4 seed. The next matchup, number 9 Oregon versus number 8 Texas Tech. That would be fun. Yeah. Very, very fun. The winner of that would go on to face number 1 Ohio State. Obviously, don't know the specific bowl games. That's not all set. Don't hold me to that. This is the first week of rankings.
Right.
The next game after that, number 11 Virginia would take on number 6 Ole Miss. The winner of that would go on to face the number 3 seed Texas A&M. And finally, to get the privilege of playing Kurt Signetti's Indiana Hoosiers, number 10 Notre Dame would face off against number 7 BYU. After that, the first and second teams out of the college football playoff, number 11 Texas and number 12 Oklahoma.
Ooh, that's interesting. Texas and Oklahoma being the first one out. I'm very curious to see how all that ends up changing. I have my other guy in the green room now, but I'm going to wait until he's settled in before I bring him in. Not sure he's quite ready just yet. So before I get him in here, I do want to talk quickly about some FIU. He says he's good to go. He said, no. Yes. All right. He's good to go. It's New Era Prep. You can find him covering the Florida Atlantic Owls for New Era Prep. He also does some New York Giants work for Sports Illustrated. It is Robbie Listella. Robbie, beautiful backdrop.
Las Vegas, man. All right. Yeah.
I think I found the only spot on the strip where there's not people screaming or music playing. So we made the best we could.
I love it. Robbie, for anybody listening, just let them know why you're in Vegas.
Yeah, so I was actually out here covering the Hall of Fame season opening event. There's 2 games, Arizona and Florida, and BYU and Villanova. I work for Bracketeer.org on the National College Basketball side, and was out here covering that game and flying home tonight. Got the red eye back to Fort Lauderdale in a couple of hours, but just chilling out. I got the F1 track behind me. And, yeah, just hanging out.
Yeah, I love that. So the college football playoffs obviously just, released their rankings. No group of 5 teams in the rankings. Are you surprised about that?
I am a little bit surprised, but also the American has kind of cannibalized themselves here over the last couple of weeks. And that, I feel like Memphis's loss to UAB kind of nullifies their win over Arkansas. USF, they lose to Memphis, who lost to UAB, and that I don't know if that nullifies their win over Florida. I think USF still probably has the best overall resume, if we're talking in college basketball terms, but still, in terms of the rankings and top 25 teams in the country, I don't think you can put an American Conference team in there right now unless you were to put USF there. So it's kind of what they've done to themselves. If Navy were to beat Notre Dame, that would definitely, in my opinion, earn them a spot. I don't think there's any way around that if they beat Notre Dame. But they haven't beaten Notre Dame in quite a while. So that's going to be a tall task, but that's a very important game. And what I really do, I think this opens the door for the Sun Belt. I don't really think the Sun Belt is better than the American, but I think they've done a better job, but they haven't cannibalized themselves. And that's put JMU in kind of a prime position here. And if they're able to kind of finish out undefeated and maybe like a Memphis, if Memphis were to win the American and JMU goes undefeated down the stretch, I'd be interested to see if they put JMU in over Memphis. I really would be.
Yeah, I'm very curious too, because Memphis is a good football team under Bob Chesney. It's I think too, if we see like a Memphis lose or a USF stumble or one of these American teams stumble, like you said, it just opens up the door for them. And it's kind of, I mean, I guess it's a good parlay into what we're going to talk about now, and that's another American matchup with the Florida Atlantic Owls facing coming off a bye week and facing that Tulsa Hurricane. How do you feel about their matchup going into this weekend?
It's definitely one. Tulsa looked like a new team against Temple. They had looked atrociously bad in all of their American Conference games before that, but they were playing a pretty tough schedule. I mean, they had to play Memphis, they had to play Navy, Tulane, and then, they finally play, I wouldn't say a bad American Conference team, but a team closer to their level in Temple. And it was a close game. They took that down to the wire. I believe it went into overtime. And I think that gives Tulsa some juice heading into this game. If FAU's offense, but where this game to me lies in favor of FAU, I still think FAU's offense can will them to victory in this game. Every American Conference quarterback that Tulsa has faced outside of Navy has thrown for 250 yards and multiple touchdowns. If Caden Veldkamp is able to put up a similar stat line, I mean, Evan Simon last week threw for like 250 and 5 touchdowns. If Caden Veldkamp is able to do that, I don't think Tulsa can match that offensively. But if Tulsa's able to force some turnovers, get FAU in long down situations, we've seen what that does to that offense. And if they get stuck in neutral, I think Tulsa's offense has started heating up. The freshman quarterback from Tennessee, Hayes, he's looked good. He looked good against Temple last week, and against the FAU defense, I think he could have another good week if they don't kind of fix things. To me, this week, I really want to see who's back, who's healthy. Jamari Sands, Xavier Terrell, Alex Akovich, 3 guys to me that if they can get all 3 of those guys back this week, that's very important. If they can get a win here with those guys back, I think that helps them get some momentum here down this final stretch of games.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing the bye is great for, is getting healthy. Brandon, me and you have talked about the offensive firepower and Caden Veldkamp playing a difference, potentially for playing spoiler for a couple teams down the stretch. How do you think that they'll perform this week against an American opponent?
I think it's got to be elevated because this is the second bye week, right? So we have that first bye week stretch where the discussions had some things are going to be tweaked and changed, and it didn't really feel like those necessary adjustments were made. It felt like they tried some things, but then they fell right back into the same kind of thing they've been doing, the same ups and downs, the inconsistencies that they've had. I really want to see an emphasis on getting the quarterback comfortable, getting the offensive line comfortable, and using the passing game to build the run game, if that makes sense. I want to see early down shots. I want to see a star quarterback be allowed to be a star quarterback early in the game. Get those defensive backs and linebackers taking that step back, because if you give Sands or Terrell or Shields Dudden even one better step, all of a sudden now your early runs are turning it from 1 or 2 yards to 3 to 5. And that will do worlds for this offense that can get the ball out in lightning quick speeds, can move at a lightning quick pace. And Tulsa I don't think they are on the level of some of these previous opponents that FAU has played, where they can handle that over 4 quarters. They can handle that over the entire game. And that also ties into, can the offensive line run block better? And also on the defensive side, can you get after the passer? What adjustments are you going to make to actually get a consistent pass rush? Are you going to blitz more? Are you going to throw some disguises to throw off a freshman quarterback and allow your guys to win one-on-one matchups? Right. You can't keep doing the same things that you're doing. But I do think, like Robbie said, if FAU takes care of business on the offensive side of the things, they're in a really good position to win this week. And then, we're not there yet, there's a really interesting game against Tulane coming up where I look at the Owen McCown stat line and I'm like, I think people might be sleeping on FAU in this matchup a little bit.
Yeah, and that's something we've talked about that I think is going to be interesting. We're going to end up hitting on that when that time comes. I think it's next week, perhaps.
Yes.
But the bye week's very important, not just to get guys healthy, but potentially sub new faces in. I know all 3 of us have kind of talked about getting new guys involved, seeing some different rotation. Robbie, is there any faces that you want to see that may have not gotten an extended chance early in the season get better looks going forward?
Not really particularly. I mean, the offensive line, potentially they could try to shuffle something there if things were to go south this week. But, the only really move on the offensive line I want to see Alex Akovich slide back in there. They're confident with Nonar at left tackle, and with that being the case, I don't really think there's any other move to make, besides having Akovich slide back in there. I think at wide receiver, we've seen Jay Sean Platt, we've seen Assad Wassim, we've seen Easton Messer. But we've also seen recently Jabari Smith do well. We've seen Brandon Hoke do well. Quincy Brown and J.R. Wilson are two guys who have been on the injury report for most of the year, but there hasn't been any confirmation that they're out for the year. I want to kind of see some of these other wide receivers get involved. Obviously, they're not going to be an every down type of play, but we've kind of seen this with Jabari Smith here where they bring him in for a play, and somehow he ends up with a 35-yard, one reception, 35 yards, and a touchdown like every other game. Yeah. I want to see that. I mean, it's tough for teams, right? They're game planning for Jay Platt. They're game planning for Easton Messer. They're game planning for Wassim. All of a sudden, you sub in Brandon Hoke, and they don't know what. I mean, if they're smart, sure, they watch the film. But that's the type of play where you can catch a defense slipping, is when you sub in a guy who maybe right off the bat they're not ready for it. And then all of a sudden, Jabari Smith blazes them. Brandon Hoke makes a nice play. Quincy Brown and J.R. Wilson are two guys who really could fit that. They haven't played all year, and all of a sudden you sub them in, and then J.R. is a guy who can stretch the field. I don't know what's been going on with him, an injury of some sort, but coming into the season, that was the guy who I looked at as a potential number 2 wide receiver in this offense. Right. Hasn't worked out that way, but I still believe he's got the talent to contribute. And if he comes back, if Quincy comes back, if any of these wide receivers can find a way to make a splash play, I think that'll help the offense. And then on the defensive side of the ball, in the edge rushers room, I like what they've been kind of doing. They've been rotating a lot, and I do want to see Josh Roberts a little bit more. I feel like early in the season, he was really kind of taken over for that defense, and kind of lately it's been quiet. He's been quieter. His reps haven't been cut too drastically, but I think if they're not generating pass rush the way they want, I think subbing in Roberts, trying to get him going a little bit, and alongside obviously Wilkie and Eric Brantley and all those other guys in there too. I think some subs in that room can kind of give some fresh legs and help them generate some pass rush. I think the pass rush though has definitely been improved over the last couple of weeks, but overall subs really just get some wide receivers going, get Akovich back, and in the running back room, if Xavier or Jamari is not 100%, I think you have to rely on Caden Shields-Dutton. They haven't done that the past 2 weeks. They've kind of tried to get Jamari going, but it's hurt. You can tell. And if that's still the case this week, if they're still going to try to run the ball as they normally do, I want to see 15 carries for Caden Shields-Dutton.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we've talked about him extensively too, Brandon. Obviously we've talked to him, we've interviewed him a few times. You've got to talk to him recently yourself. Is there anything you want to piggyback? It's kind of interesting, Tom Herman last year rotated so many wide receivers in that it felt like nobody could get into a rhythm. And now now Zach Kitley doesn't rotate nearly enough wide receivers, it seems. Is there anything you want to kind of piggyback on Robbie's point there?
Yeah, it's from the running back perspective, I haven't understood the rotation because Sands is battling a high ankle sprain. If you follow the NFL, you know that those injuries take time. Right. Why not let the guy that's healthy get comfortable and take command of the backfield until Sands is healthier? And now you can do that 50-50, 60-40, whatever split, right? On the wide receiver side of things, I really want to see different types of receivers out there to give different types of looks, which is what Robbie was alluding to, right? It doesn't have to be, Brandon Hoke has to play 40 or 30 snaps a game, right? It's not necessarily what I'm asking for. But put a guy out there that maybe isn't more of an X wide receiver, contested catch, pair that with Assad Wassim and Easton Messer. And now it's more so, I think I want to see FAU make opposing defenses defend every blade of grass, and even vertically, right? I want to see FAU not only have the guy that's a deep, insane route runner, but the guy that can stretch the field, the guy that can go up above a defensive back. Because now, once again, that ties into what I talked about earlier. Now this is an offense that is going to force defenses to back off. It's going to force defenses to not creep up and attack the run game on first and second down and put FAU behind the sticks and make Caden Veldkamp have to be Superman on third and fourth down.
Right.
You want not even necessarily offensive balance. You want to just stay ahead of the sticks. And FAU needs to find ways to utilize a very talented wide receiver room to do so.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing. They have to be able to mix it up. I mean, like Robbie Andrew alluded to, just getting different guys' looks creates issues for opposing defenses, especially if they're not necessarily doing their homework on the tendencies of those guys when they have come in or looked at the film of them prior. I mean, the film of them prior to them at FAU is going to be a lot different because of coaching, but it just gives defenses another thing to think about. Like Rob, you guys have pointed to, if they're game planning against trying to stop an Easton Messer, if you throw in a Jabari Smith or you throw in some, Brandon Hope and give them chances, it really changes the potential outlook for the game for them. And I think with Caden Schules-Dunn, we've talked about this a million times off the air. He's got to be a guy who gets more carries. He's a big body back. He can take the big carries. He can brush off stuff. And he's got great vision. He understands to get upfield quickly when he needs to. He doesn't, early in his career, he did a little bit of dancing behind the line. He doesn't do that anymore. He gets the ball and goes. He's a guy that should be getting more touches going forward. And I think Robbie's charging his phone. I'm assuming his phone's probably on the cusp of death there. Robbie, if you can listen, you want to tap out. It's not let me unmute him now. If you want to, I guess the phone died. That's two. I mean, I got to start having. You know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start
put a countdown on. Just put a countdown on and be like, all right, phone battery is at 5%. Let's see when it died. No.
I gotta have a cutaway at this point. Yeah, I need a cutaway for when somebody dies on the show. Not actually dies for the phone died, because we had Daniel Zuniga. And by the way, shout out to Daniel. I do want to give him his props. You can find him on Instagram at Couch Potato Sports Coverage, all one, no spaces, anything. No symbols, anything. Does fantastic coverage for the New Mexico Lobos, and also just great work in the New Mexico area, whether it's sports or other high school sports. Make sure you guys follow him on IG. That was Robbie LaStella. Robbie does FAU stuff for the New Era Prep, written content for New Era Prep. He also does some writing for the New York Giants on the New York Giants for Sports Illustrated. You can find him at R LaStella Report, LASTELLA Report at X/Twitter. And he's actually messaging me on Twitter now. Yeah, his phone went from 40 to 0 in about a 10-15 minute span. That is, you gotta love that. That's a StreamYard stuff. But Brandon, actually, before we get out of here, there is one quick conversation I do want to have with you, and that is about FIU, which we haven't even talked about. I've kind of flown under the radar. I'd say I wouldn't necessarily say struggled a bit, but they've stumbled a little bit. Lost to Kennesaw State, lost to Missouri State back-to-back weeks. Now they face Middle Tennessee as kind of a get-right game, have a couple extra days to get ready for this game. Haven't beat Middle Tennessee, I think, since Willie Simmons was a coach there. Sometime in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Go in, it's a midday game, Middle Tennessee. What are your expectations? And did we see a Keon Jenkins benching? How does this going forward? What are your takeaways?
So at today's press conference, head coach Willie Simmons did say that Keon Jenkins is the starting quarterback. They said they are comfortable if they have to turn to Pisanski, but as of now, Jenkins still is the starter for the FIU Panthers. In terms of the game, I just want to see consistency. I want to see quarter one, quarter four, discipline be consistent, the offense be consistent, the defense be consistent. And what does that mean inherently, right? Obviously, the penalties are self-explanatory. Most of the penalties that FIU committed were pre-snap against Missouri State. Also have the turnovers. That plays a big role in them falling behind, because if they don't have The fumble, the two fumbles early in the game, the Kewan Jenkins dropping the ball and then the punt return fumble. I think this is a different game. We're talking about FIU potentially winning their 5th game and heading towards a bowl eligibility berth or attempting to reach bowl eligibility. Obviously, it doesn't transpire that way. Offensively, Coach Willie Sims spoke about wanting to get the run game rolling again, wanting to see the consistent growth from the passing game. I just want to see this offense continue to build upon things. Hey, the passing game looked a bit better last week. How do we build upon that? Hey, maybe the run game took a step back. How do we get Kajan Owens rolling again, one of the better running backs in the country? How do we make sure that Anthony Carey is making the most out of his touches? The wide receiver room, can we get JoJo Stone rolling again? Can we get Eric Nelson rolling again? Can we get Colin McNeil after and he would say it, horrific penalty last week? Can we get him contributing to this offense again? And then defensively, the funny thing about the FIU defense is that they always play well. It's just a matter of execution. If they tackle well and they stay in front of their guys and the communication is good, they're going to play very well. They get killed by chunk plays. This is a defense that will limit teams to whatever yards per carry and whatever average depth of target for a game, but they'll get hit by 3 when they're not going completely right. There will be a miscommunication here, miscommunication there, a chunk play here, a chunk play there, and all of a sudden they're giving up 20-plus points. So I just want to see that consistency from the unit again. They were really good against the run 95% of the time, 90% of the time against Missouri State, but they got gashed for big gains. They were really good for the majority of the time against the pass, but they got gashed for big gains. So it's finding the middle ground between giving up all those big plays and giving up nothing. And I really do like their chances, and I want to save it for after the game. But they're still in a good spot potentially to make a bowl in 2025.
Yeah, nothing is decided yet. I'm really interested to see how they perform. Consistency, that you see, like that. I think that's an important word for them. We haven't seen it. We've seen sparks of that, but we haven't necessarily seen it yet. One thing is that Derek Mason, the head coach of Middle Tennessee, he will put together a good defense. I know the record doesn't speak for it, but that's more of offensive woes than defensive woes. Offensively, Jaquel Middlebrook is probably one of the better running backs in college football right now. He's also the best college pass blocker as a running back in college football right now. Very versatile guy. I don't think he stays there next year. Don't want to say, no bad juju, but he's too. I'm just going to lay it out. He's too talented to be at MTSU. No offense to MTSU, but he's a P4 guy, in my opinion. Just with the way he's able to handle himself as a pass blocker and a rusher, yards after contact. He's get the whole package as a running back, and he's kind of the only reason they've been close in games considerably. Even against Delaware, the Delaware game, he was one of the main factors because he was able to, extend plays with his pass blocking and then get off, with releases, chip releases. So it's going to be interesting to see how FIU kind of handles them in that game. We won't be there for that one, but I know that you'll have coverage for that. But actually, I didn't mean to keep you this long. Believe it or not, I've kept you for nearly a full hour now. So before I get you out of here, just let everyone know where they can find you at, where you're heading to. We didn't even get to talk about the cocktail party. So we'll have to talk about that another time on the show, perhaps. So just let everybody know where your travels and everything you're doing.
Busy. You can find all my stuff on Twitter at BPOC24, at Instagram at BPOC24, on Blue Sky. Just search my name up, Brandyn Pokrass. I'm pretty sure it's Brandyn-Pokrass. If you're interested, where am I going to be this week? So, as Thomas mentioned earlier, I will be covering USF against UTSA, home game for USF. That is Thursday night. And then Saturday, don't have that fully situated yet, but I will be either at Miami, Syracuse or FAU Tulsa. Very excited for this weekend. Should be very fun. And once again, thank you as always for having me on. This is always fun to talk, and very, very fun that we're going to get to do this all again with the college football rankings next week.
Yeah, because they're going to drop every time the show's going to be on. Yep. So it's going to be, anticipation. I can't wait. Maybe that helps us from a viewer standpoint. Who knows? Brandyn, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time out.
All right. Have a great one.
Yeah, you take care. That is Brandyn Pokrass. You can find him on Twitter/X, whatever you guys call it, at BPOK24. You can find him on Instagram under the same handle. If you guys are listening to the show right now on YouTube, this is College Football Now. We're doing reactions. We're talking football from live reporters on site who cover their teams. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like. It's completely free. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us. If you're watching on X/Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, like, and you can comment as well. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. The show's live. I get to the comments after the show. You can also send a comment as well, and within 24 to 48 hours, I will get back to you. I do have my other guest in the waiting room. He's been incredibly patient so far. You can find him covering the California Golden Bears for the league winners. It is my friend Cody Henderson. Cody, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. So, last week Cal suffers a loss against Virginia, and arguably Jaren's worst game as a quarterback. Threw 2 interceptions. I personally wasn't able to watch that game. Could you just talk about your thoughts watching it, what you saw, what disappointed you, and what potentially gave you hope that the Bears aren't kind of going through that same rut under Justin Wilcox?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. They are going through that same rut right now. I don't know what it is about the month of October. I mean, technically that game was played November 1st, but October, November, it's brutal. I don't know. It happens every single year. And this year is no different, right? The game, I thought that they had a chance to go down and win it. They were down 24-21 with like 40 seconds left. They got the ball back until he threw a pick six there at the end. So if you had the Cal money line, I feel sorry for you in that one, because I believe they were about to cover until he threw that, pick six. But I don't know. There's just like a lack of discipline. The defense plays really good at times, and at other times they play not so good. The offense is just one big mess right now. Bright spots are obviously Jacob DeJesus and Mason Minnie and Tron Grizel from here and there. But one thing that really confuses me, Tommy, is Jacob DeJesus is 5'7". Okay, he's not a very tall guy. And why they decide to keep putting him on these 50-50 go balls against much taller corners, I don't understand it. I really don't. And it's not like they're bad passes that are ending up being picked off, but like he doesn't really have a chance to go win that 50-50 ball. He's 4 or 5 inches shorter than the corner.
Right. Height just wins on deep balls. Like
it's just, I don't know. It's mind-numbing. At this point in the season, like if you've watched enough Cal football, when you get to this point in the season, it's just mind-numbing. It really is.
Yeah. And it's tough because, I mean, they tried to pull out some tricks. I know Mason Minnie, they did like a trick player. I think I saw a trick, something where they had Minnie throw a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So that was interesting. Do you think that they have enough play? So I know this was an issue coming into the season, right? We saw all those guys transfer out. Do you think we're starting to see some of that attrition, I guess, start to take hold of like the Cal playmakers, to where Trond is kind of, not performed as well? DeJesus hasn't performed as he was expected to coming into the year. Minnie's kind of stepped up, but it seems like outside of that, they haven't really had any, signature performances consistently on the offense. Do you think that they're kind of seeing that come together right now?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the performance of Mark Hamper. I mean, Mark Hamper was supposed to transfer to Wisconsin. He was projected to be a starter there, and then he flips his commitment at the last second to go to Cal, and he comes here and he all of a sudden doesn't know how to catch the football. I mean, this might be a hot take, but I think the guy that they missed the most is Isaiah Hunter. Isaiah Hunter was a beast last year. He was really kind of coming into his own. He has great size, great speed. He runs routes, very crisp. He's got very crisp route running. And I think that they are really feeling that right now, because I think it is a war of attrition. And they just do not have the juice on the outside. I mean, Jacob DeJesus has been awesome, but they're just spamming him right now. And it's, I mean, that's just not enough, right? It's just not nearly enough. You can't just keep spamming the same player. And I mean, he's electric when he gets the football, but I don't know. And then with the drop combined with the drop passes, I mean, yeah, they've got no juice on the outside.
Yeah, I think it's weird how, I mean, and this is no fault of Jacob DeJesus. Obviously, he has to do what the coaches are asking him to do. He's not, I'm sure he wants to play the ball, but I'm not so certain he wants to be just a deep threat guy 24/7 when other defense are kind of knowing it's coming. It's kind of interesting. You mentioned Isaiah Hunter. He's looking really good right now with Nebraska. He's already almost at his full season total last year with Cal. He's at 555 yards. He already matched the same touchdowns. He's at 5 touchdowns. So he's been a great asset for the Cornhuskers this year. And I think that's a great call that's who Cal is probably missing the most on offense. And now the rushing attack hasn't been, fantastic either. I guess Kendrick has kind of became the RB1 there. I know they had a lot of injuries too going into this game at the running back position. Do you think that, and I mean, and it's tough to say because Jaden Ott left. He hasn't looked the same at all after his injury. Jamin Thomas hasn't necessarily looked fantastic either. Do you think that it's potentially scheme oriented where they're not able to run the ball, or is it just more of, in the middle of that rebuild, they just don't have the guys right now?
I think it's really their lack of committing to the run, really. I mean, you'll watch games where their first 2 drives, they won't run the ball at all.
Right.
And then it's like, why not? And then they'll start running the ball and they'll get it going and then they'll abandon it their next drive. And so I just feel like, I mean, as someone who played offensive line in high school, and I'm by no means comparing myself to someone who played in college or at the collegiate level, but as a former offensive lineman, that mentality of always getting pushed back instead of going forward on a run blocking play, I mean, that just, it's not feasible, right? I mean, you got to let those guys go forward and deliver the punishment instead of always taking that step back and receiving the punishment. So it's just like a mentality thing to me. I mean, I don't know. It's like hard to describe because there are times when they actually run the ball really well and Kendrick Raphael will get going and he's had multiple 100-yard games this season. But then the next game, they'll just completely forget it ever happened and just, I don't know, try to throw it 40 times. And it's just, I don't know. I had high hopes of Brian Harsin coming into the season, but it's been a disappointment for sure.
Yeah. And I know that maybe, too many people didn't expect them to beat Virginia, but I also don't think too many expected them to lose, to Virginia Tech the week prior, or even playing UNC close the way they did. Those 2 games should have probably been, a lot greater victories. Cal should have, I mean, I don't want to curse, but Cal should have beaten the doors off of UNC, if I'm being honest, just given the firepower there. I mean, obviously it's a Bill Belichick coach team, and he does tend to have success against, let's call them freshmen, rookies, whatever we want to call it. But at the same time, but the way their season went, you kind of expected Cal to beat them a little bit better. We talked about that was a little bit concerning that they only won by 3 points. And that last second punch out by Brent Austin really saved that.
Should have lost the game.
Yeah, they would have lost. Yep, they would have ended up losing that game. And now I know many people didn't expect Virginia to be the team they are, but Chandler Morris has looked good. That team has looked good. But it seems like, Jaron has come out, and now we're starting to see kind of those freshman woes where, I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but do you think that JKS is just trying to do too much superhuman kind of stuff in his head, kind of being that gunslinger guy, putting everything on his shoulders because he's getting sacked when he probably shouldn't and be able to throw the ball away? But I mean, in his position, can you necessarily blame him?
You can't really blame him, and he is certainly going through some freshman woes right now. You can tell he's pressing at certain times, trying to put the ball maybe where it doesn't need to go. But I think this kind of goes back to Brian Harsin. I mean, they don't really get him in situations where it's just make the easy throw, make the easy read. You can tell when they're going to run the ball. You can tell when they're going to run certain plays, right? I mean, they have it's not like it's a very predictable offense that they are running. I guess besides that trick play that Minnie threw to Raphael, but offensive line still isn't great. I mean, tackle position is still kind of a revolving door right now. I've thought the guards and the centers have played fine, but a lot of that pressure does come from his backside. So that would be, the right tackle. They've kind of been shuffling at that position quite a bit. I don't know. It's just like I said, Tommy, it gets to this point in the season where it's like, okay, they start out really hot, they're doing really well, and then it's like, what? How the hell did we get here? And it's just, I don't know. It gets mind numbing, man. It's just like it's the same season. I feel like I've watched under Justin Wilcox the same season for the past 9 years.
Yeah,
almost a decade.
It's almost insane that it's like almost mirroring exactly what happens, his shortfalls that tend to happen during that middle portion of the season. And now, this upcoming week, they have one of their hardest. I mean, it doesn't get much easier.
Nope.
They faced Louisville. They're at Louisville this week. I mean, what are you looking for? Does Cal have a chance to upset the Cardinals in this game, or do you think that we kind of continue to see this downward spiral that we're seeing under Wilcox and the Golden Bears?
I mean, unless it's, Joe Burrow's LSU team or Alabama or, the top dogs in college football, I think Cal's relatively got a chance against a lot of schools. That being said, do I think that they get the brakes beaten off of them this game? Possibly. I think that they're massive underdogs in this game, betting wise. I don't know the actual line off the top of my head, but it's big. Louisville, credit to Jeff Brom. He's run such a good program. They're such a good team. I think they have a chance of making the playoff here. Maybe if they keep winning games, they're going to have a great chance. It's just, can Cal limit their mistakes at this point in the season? I don't know. You see it from time and time again. They start to get on a good drive, and then the next thing you know, they got a false start and a legal shift. And it's just mind-numbing stuff, back-breaking stuff that they can't afford to have happen, and it yet continues to happen. So I think that if I recall, I believe the spread was like 18.5 for Louisville or something crazy like that. So
yeah, it's up there.
Okay. I think Cal can cover that, to be honest with you. I think they can. Now, it depends what type of Cal team shows up. Do you get the Cal team that shows up and actually wants to tackle? But if you get the Cal team that shows up on defense and doesn't want to tackle, you can kiss this game over by the end of the first half. I will say that.
That's what I wanted to ask you because, I'm going to get hate from this because Miller Moss's mom already doesn't like me, but I don't think Miller Moss has really done anything special for Louisville. I think it's been a lot of their running attack that they've had a lot of success with Isaac Brown. Obviously Chris Bell is fantastic wide receiver, but Isaac Brown has kind of been the guy. Last week against Tech, he's 16 for 130 and a touchdown. They also have Kewan Brown, who had 2 touchdowns last week. We've talked about Cal kind of being a little soft in the ass lately in terms of run stopping. Are you worried? How worried are you about Cal's defense being able to stop the run? Because if they can, they have a chance to win. If not, potential blowout. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's really can't. You said it perfectly. Miller Moss, he's all right. I don't think he's a all world college football quarterback, but he is pretty good. So I do think Cal can still hold their own in the secondary. I still think that they prove that, every week for the most part. They don't really get torn up through the air besides what Darian Mensah did to him. But it's not like he threw for a crazy amount of yards either. Can they stop the run? That's the biggest question. And right now, I don't know because they are giving up, a lot of yards on the ground. You recall the Virginia Tech game. They got ran all over and they couldn't stop one play. I don't know. It's like I feel like they can, and I believe that they can, but until they prove it, until they prove it, it's hard to believe that they will.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how that matchup goes. But before I let you go, Cody, obviously the College Football Playoff released their top 25 rankings. Have you gotten to see it yet? And if you've gotten to see it, are there any surprises on there that you've seen?
I believe Texas was at 11, correct?
They were really high. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a little bit interesting. And it looks like Notre Dame's going to have a new another home game, right?
It seems like that they have Notre Dame at I think 10th right now in the playoff.
Okay, so they would actually be on the road against BYU. So I'm looking at it right now. I don't know. I feel like they kind of got it right. So Texas is not at 11. Sorry, I misspoke. I'm looking at it right now. I saw a tweet earlier, and I guess that threw me off. But
They're
I feel
like
like
9 or something, right?
I don't even see him on here.
Oh, never mind. Sorry, I think they're first team out, so they may be
first
13
team
or
out.
14.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So other than that, I mean, I think they got it right for the most part. Notre Dame, I mean, the media's infatuation with Notre Dame is always crazy to me. I mean, they have good teams, yes. They have great teams, yes. But at the same time, it's like they don't play in a conference title game. So it's really hard for me to like just be bought in on that because I feel like playing in a conference is just different.
Yeah,
you get
I agree.
And they've got their rivalries, with USC and a couple of other teams, but at the same time, like I don't know, they don't play anyone elite, and when they did, they lost.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing.
And they always do. They always do. So but Indiana too. I mean, I don't know. Indiana has a case for being the number 1 team in the country right now. I think they've beaten some tougher opponents than Ohio State has, but Ohio State is the defending champion, so it should probably be given to them because they're still undefeated. I think a sneaky team is BYU, though. I mean, BYU is tough, and they are good. And BYU can do a lot of things right now. I mean, Blockmeyer, he's another true freshman, and he's playing his tail off right now.
He's getting no love from the national media, man.
No, and no one even knows who he is. And like you would think, I don't know what the media's deal is with them, but man, they're good. They're a sneaky good football team, and I think if they're at home against Notre Dame in that home crowd environment, and then there's nothing else to do. I think it's Provo, Utah. I mean, they've got nothing else to do over there besides root on their Cougars. I think that's a big upset waiting to happen. Now, I know it says BYU is 7 and Notre Dame is 10, but I think Notre Dame would probably be the betting favorite, and I think national media is going to try to hype them up to win that game. But I don't know. And then that Oregon-Texas Tech, like if those two teams were to play, I don't know. I think Oregon might smoke them. I mean, Oregon, I think is
Oregon's a
I don't
good
know
team.
if they're not the top of the Big Ten, but I do think that the top of the Big Ten is
better
right
than
now.
the
I
top
think
of the Big 12.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Big 12. Sorry. Well, Oregon top of the Big Ten isn't the top of the. But I think that they could beat Texas Tech, and then Memphis and Georgia. I'm going to be honest. I really haven't watched much of Memphis this year, but I do know that they are good. And then Virginia at Ole Miss. I mean, that feels like Ole Miss would smoke them, right? I mean,
I think Ole Miss would win that game. Yeah.
After watching Virginia, I mean, one team that I am interested in seeing who might get in is I think they've got the Utes at 13, the Sooners at 12, and Oklahoma or Texas at 11. So that would be interesting to see if any of those teams could get in. I'd like to see Utah get in because I think that they can make some noise too.
Utah's a sneaky team too, man. I mean, Utah and BYU are two teams that have Utah played BYU really close, and then Utah beat the brakes off of Iowa State this past week. I'm pretty sure Utah beat the brakes off of oh my gosh, who was it? Cincinnati. They had Cincinnati ranked last week before they smoked them. So I'm very curious to see how that ends up playing out. Memphis, I just have this feeling like I know Memphis is in there right now, but I just don't see them having the strength of I think it's going to end up being like they're going to get just, dog walked by Georgia. I think they have them playing Georgia right now. And personally, if I'm like a representative of the group of 5, I think I'd rather have USF, who's beaten. I know Florida is not Florida, of years past, but they did beat Florida. They did beat Boise State. I think I'd rather have, USF if they win than a Memphis team. That's just me, though. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little crazy, but there are some interesting teams there where I'm like, okay, Tennessee being ranked 25. I thought that was interesting. Pitt snuck in. Washington, who's another sleeper team. Their only loss, I think, is to Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. They're
Washington's got a clear path to getting into this right now. I mean, if they win their games, they could easily end up in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how all of that plays out because going forward, it's going to be great. I didn't even notice I've kept you on for nearly half an hour, man. I didn't mean to keep you on so late.
One thing I do got to say, Tommy, is
yeah,
how in the hell is Tennessee still ranked 25?
that's what I'm very curious about. I'm not sure. As much as I know, Joey Aguilar and them were playing good. I mean, they lost to Oklahoma. You know, Alabama beat them as well. They barely beat Arkansas. It's tough to see them at 25. I thought I would have seen like a James Madison, a USF, or somebody. I mean, there's a lot of other teams I think I would have rather seen there. Than,
and there just being one ACC team on there. I mean, I understand why the other ones aren't worth it, but it is
in the
as someone who covers
yeah.
a team in the ACC. It's kind of sad, you know. I do root for some of these ACC teams. I hope that they play well, but it's kind of feels like the old Pac-12 where they just all beat each other, and then it's like, well, what now at the end of it, you know?
Yeah, they're just cannibalizing each other, and I feel like the committees they kind of are overlooking the ACC and some of the others because we'll see a 1-loss ACC or a 2-loss ACC team not in, and potentially a 4-loss team come in. So who knows how that ends up going? But
if that happens, we got a riot.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to see how it goes, man. It'll be interesting to play out. But Cody, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I truly appreciate you taking out the time. Love talking to you, man. Let everybody know where they can find you before you get out of here.
So you guys can follow me on X. That's where I post all my content at Cody, all lowercase, sorry, at Cody TLW. I'm on there just usually. I've been pretty quiet as of late. I've been grading a ton of papers and whatnot, and because of this YouTube TV thing, it was really hard for me to find a Cal stream for the longest time.
I'll have to hook you up, man. I got something for you.
Okay. I appreciate that. It took me forever. I don't know what websites I was going on at that point. So I felt like my dad in the moment. But that's okay. I'll get it figured out for this week.
I got you. I'll hook you up, brother. But Cody, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate you too, Tommy. Thank you.
Later. That is Cody Henderson of the League Winners. Make sure you guys follow him on his X / Twitter. You can follow him at Cody CODYTLW, all lowercase. I do have my next guest in the room. I'm thankful that he is here on the show with us. He's a good friend of mine covering the Syracuse Orange football team, as well as a plethora of other sports and teams themselves. You can find him on Twitter /X at CallDT. You can find him on his website where he does his show from live Monday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at wakeupcalldt.com. Is my good friend Dan Tortora. Dan, how are you doing today, my friend?
I just got off the air of doing my reaction video to the college football playoff committee top 25. What I find interesting is I released my top 25 for this week going into week 11 ahead of the college football playoff releasing their first rankings. And I'm pleasantly surprised that we agreed on a lot of things. And there's two interesting areas where they had, and it really came down to their valuation of a certain conference, just a little bit above where I have them or a little bit below. And then when you get to the bottom of it, there's teams that they put in that I do not agree with. And then there's teams that I think there's certain ones that should be in and there's ones that should be out. So I find it interesting. I just did a side-by-side of their rankings and mine. And I was like, wow, okay. So the committee and I are not that far off, but when they get to like 20 to 25, I got some questions for why they chose what they chose. And I just got off the teleconference as well. So I was listening in to their reasoning for certain things. And no matter what they say, there's no logical explanation for Notre Dame being 10.
That's the one that's been surprising me and surprising everyone that I've had on the show. I mean, their best win is USC, who USC hasn't had a great win in of themselves. And the good teams that they have played, they've gotten they've lost to. So that one's a head scratcher to me. Were there any other surprises on that list for you specifically?
Yeah, when I go back and I look at the list, and like I said, I have them side by side with mine. When I could give mine too if you want to do that, but I would say, to answer your question, the surprises that I had, I am surprised at their slight devaluing of Oregon, I am surprised that Texas and Oklahoma are worse than Notre Dame to them. I'm very surprised that Virginia is the first ACC school to be ranked, and it's not until 14. They did not put a single school outside of the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC in the top 25. And I thought there was this whole like the highest ranked G6 team or whatever they want to call it. I don't like that terminology, but I don't know where the hell Memphis was in this. And I think USC has no business being in the discussion. I don't think Michigan has any business being in it. I don't think Missouri has any business being in it. I don't think Washington does. I don't think Tennessee does. If you're going to put a 3-loss team in the college football playoff rankings, it would be SMU because they just beat Miami. So,
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree about USC. I'm not huge on Michigan either. Missouri going out with Bro Pribula being out for the year. I mean, I think that's going to change itself. I am happy to see Pitt get their little crack in there because they've been playing well, but they have a very difficult schedule coming up. I was a little bit surprised Iowa got in there at 20 as well. Memphis, I mean, I'm just so surprised. I mean, what does the group of 5, group of 6, whatever we want to call them, why is it so difficult for them to get any type of love from the committee here? Do you think it's and I wanted to ask you this too. Do you think it gets to a point where they end up making their own playoff?
Yeah, I mean, I actually predicted years ago, it's probably over 3 years ago now, that the SEC would form its own. And then I adjusted that when the Big Ten made the move for the 4 West Coast schools, that if you take the Big Ten, which is the Midwest, the Northeast, and the West Coast, and you take the SEC, which is the Southern Middle and the Southeast, and you put them together, the only part of the country that's unaccounted for is a non-factor. It's the Wyoming and Utah. I mean, I know Utah's played spoiler before, but it's the Wyoming, Utah, Nevada area. So essentially, if they left with Notre Dame, and they were able to get Clemson and Florida State, which Florida State's not really a factor right now. But if they were able to get the pedigree of Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and Notre Dame, those 4 schools, that's it, and have them join this thing, then I don't think there's anybody that would argue that whoever comes out of that, the champion, those are the most notable schools that are in college football. So I have argued that the SEC and the Big Ten and Notre Dame would form their own college football playoff 1, and college football playoff 2 would be the ACC, the Big 12, and everyone else left in FBS. That the college football playoff will essentially have, and this is going to make it more money, they will have 2 tiers of the college football playoff, and they will have a similar model, but they will have tier 1 and tier 2. And so, yes, to answer your question, my prediction over 3 years ago was that the ACC, the Big 12, the American, the MAC, the whatever the pack is now, the Sun Belt, the Conference USA, Mountain West, that all of these would join together, the American, if I didn't say that, but all of them would join together and that they would form FBS 2, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, because there's been talks about a potential super league forming, and that's kind of like the same premise of what you're talking about too, of where they have this primary college playoff, if you will, and then they have kind of the secondary kind of do their own things. And I think it will end up making more money, whether or not how many schools it ends up being. That's where it kind of gets to a gray matter.
They right now they would have between the SEC and the Big Ten, they would have 34. If they're to get the 4 that I mentioned, they would be just shy of 40. And to me, that's more than enough to, I mean, because what wouldn't they have? You know what I mean? I mean, the schools that are left in the ACC, the schools that are in the Big 12, and what are they really missing if they have the Big 10 and they have the SEC? The SEC and the Big 10 already get first picking. And, to answer your question, why is Memphis or no team outside of the Power 4 in there? Because they gotta stroke the ego of the Big 10. I mean, the USC has no business being in this thing. No. Notre Dame's best win is against a USC team that has no quality wins. And Notre Dame is getting credit for losing to Texas A&M by 1 and losing to Miami by 3 as if they beat them. A top 10 ranked Notre Dame should have beaten Miami and Texas A&M and USC. Why they're getting credit in the top 10 as if they won these games is beyond me, because you don't go to quality losses as a criteria. criteria until you have to go to your, and I essentially look at college football the way I look at college basketball. I look at quad wins. Now, if you beat a team like Clemson at the beginning of the season, it's quad 1, but now it's a quad 3. So it drops down. The Indiana win over Illinois is a non-factor. Illinois is not a top 35 team in this country.
No, they're not.
So to me, anybody who beat Indiana, I don't care. And in the essence of this, Notre Dame has a quad. I'm going to call USC a low quad 2, high quad 3 win, and no quad 1 wins.
Right.
So what are we talking about when everybody else in the top 10 has a quad 1 win, except for Oregon, because Penn State still sucks.
Yeah. I mean, USC is one of the big surprises to me too, because I can't fathom what the I'm trying to be nice with the words. What kind of ropes they're trying to jump and use to be able to put them in this kind of ranking? Because if we're talking some of the best teams in college football, other than name appeal, what has USC done?
Well, again, I mean, why I argued all season long, why was Penn State in the top 10, the top 3, the top 2? They were number 2 in the country.
Right.
And I kept saying why. And I kept getting backlash, people arguing with me. And I said, okay, but show me. And then I end up being right. And then everybody shuts up and disappears. I said Indiana. Yeah, always. I said Indiana about 2 weeks ago. I said Indiana is not 1 and they're not 2.
Yeah.
I got over 500 messages, 498 were negative. And so I got on one platform of 500 at least messages that I got. And the responses were just vile, angry, mean. Some people were fine. Some people were, should probably take a deep breath and talk to Jesus, because they didn't ask me where I had Indiana. Right. I said they're not 1 or 2. I had them at 3 or 4. So we're having this massive fight. Like I have them at 30 and you have them at 1. I mean, I had them at 3 or 4. And then I put up this week that Indiana to me is the number 1 team in the country. And I got no responses. So all these people that wanted me to say number 1 2 weeks ago, now it's like, oh, now that he agrees with us this week, we're going to leave him alone. So, I mean, but let's be real about this. If Alabama didn't lose to Florida State, they are the consensus without doubt, heads and shoulders above Indiana, Ohio State, Texas A&M. They are number 1. Like they're so high above. Yeah. If Alabama didn't lose that first game of the season, they had 4 straight victories against top 25 ranked SEC teams.
Yeah.
They're the reason why some of these teams are not going to make the college football playoff. Alabama, if they had found a way to beat Florida State, they would be number 1 without even a question. I wouldn't even entertain somebody's argument. So it pains me that they don't have that, because the Indiana, Ohio State, Texas A&M, they're all undefeated, but Ohio State has 1 quality win, Texas, and that 1 quality win has fluctuated. Texas has been number 1. They've been in the top 10. They've been in the top. They've been lower. They've been unranked. They came back in the rankings. Texas is like this, which is why I put Indiana 1, because Indiana has a quality win at Oregon, a quality win at Iowa, who should have been ranked weeks ago. I argue that Iowa should have been flipped with Illinois, because Illinois was a pretender and Iowa is now contending in the Big Ten. Yeah. So, and in the top 4 in the Big Ten. So I think Indiana has 2 quality wins. Ohio State has 1. Texas A&M has like 1-ish. And so Texas A&M's played an easy SEC schedule. So that's why they're not number 1 to me. But I mean, do you want to know the top 25?
I do. Yeah.
So my top 25 is, and this came out before tonight, number 1, Indiana, number 2, Ohio State, number 3, Texas A&M, number 4, Alabama, number 5, Georgia, number 6, Ole Miss, number 7, Oregon, number 8, BYU, number 9, Texas Tech, number 10, Texas, number 11, Vanderbilt, number 12, Oklahoma, number 13, Virginia, number 14, Louisville, number 15, Utah, number 16, Notre Dame, number 17, Georgia Tech, number 18, Memphis, number 19, Miami, number 20, Cincinnati, number 21, my only 3-loss team, SMU, number 22, Iowa, number 23, USC, number 24, North Texas, and I'm happy to see that they put them 24 because I put them to number 25, Pittsburgh. So the committee and I were very even. We had the same top 3, flip Indiana, Ohio State, 4 and 5 were the same, 6 was the same, and then I had Oregon 7, then they had BYU, Texas Tech. So they had BYU, Texas Tech, Oregon. I had Oregon, BYU, Texas Tech. So that was one of the 2 times where they valued the Big 12 over what I had, but it was close. Right. Then Notre Dame, I essentially flipped with Vanderbilt, where I have Vandy 11 and Notre Dame 16. They have Notre Dame 10, Vanderbilt 16. And then the Texas, Oklahoma area, similar. Utah, similar. Virginia and Louisville, similar. Georgia Tech, Miami is similar. And then USC is a little bit off. Iowa's within 2. And then they have Michigan, who's done nothing, no quality wins yet. They have Missouri, who's done nothing, no quality wins yet. They have Washington, who's done nothing, no quality wins yet. And then they have Pittsburgh, which I agree with. And then they have Tennessee, which your last guest, I agree. Tennessee is out of this thing. I said whoever lost that game between Oklahoma and Tennessee was done. And Tennessee's done. So, I don't know why they're at 25.
Yeah, I'm kind of flabbergasted a little bit by that too. I'm actually happy that you said those rankings because your rankings actually matched pretty well with the composite rankings at our site that we put out a couple days. I think it was Monday. It ended up getting released. We had the same top 5. We also had Louisville in the same spot. We had Pitt in the same spot. A couple other teams in the same spot. So I think that's really good. Hey, we know ball, man, right? So that's
according to Indiana fans 2 weeks ago, I didn't, but today apparently I get a pass. So
hey, I'll always show love to you, man.
I tell people that life is fluid, and they said, let me check your credentials. They were mocking my ability as a broadcaster. They told me to go be a DJ and play music. And see, the difference between me and them is they watch one team.
Right.
Or they're mad because of rose-colored glasses. To these people, not every fan of Indiana, just some of the people that were there with me. Other people that were Indiana fans, we had honest conversation, and I loved it. One guy yelled at me when we were agreeing with each other, so that's crazy. But I think some people just like to yell because when they're at home, their wife or their husband doesn't allow them to speak, so they just yell at me because that's easy. I'm a stranger. But, I cover national football. Right. Okay, I cover the college football playoff. One of 200 to 300 media in the world, not the country, in the world that's credentialed at the national championship, was at every round. I'm on these teleconference calls. I'm an accredited member of the college football playoff. Right. And, and I've gotten the opportunity to speak with a lot of these Bulls that are within this and build longstanding relationships. So, I don't have to prove my credentials, but in case somebody needed to know, I guess, the background of it. But I guess what shows people what they need to see is my ranking came out before the college football playoff and how almost equal am I with the committee that's making the decision. So I would like to think that if the 12 person committee and I are almost snake eyes, then, maybe I watch college football. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that you said that, man, because sometimes people kind of forget, like, yes, we, just like you, like I cover Syracuse, you cover, but we also cover a lot of other stuff too. And I think people kind of get lost in that sometimes that, hey, oh, you guys are just covering one team. How do you know? I mean, I was at a freaking Indiana-Maryland game this past weekend. You know what I mean?
So and Maryland is terrible.
Yeah, yes, oh my Lord.
Do you know that before Indiana played that Maryland game, to the people that were wondering when I was saying, I don't just say things like I don't wake up in the morning and I hate Indiana. I was using Indiana as an example because there's factual evidence. Indiana's going into last week, before last week finished in week 10. Indiana, their conference opponents had a combined record overall of 35-35, which is 500.
Yeah,
it's not a winning record. Their conference opponents on their schedule, their record within the Big Ten combined 14-29. Going into their last 4 games of the season, their last 4 opponents this season are 1-17 in the Big Ten before they played the Maryland game. So why are the people sitting here arguing with me that that's a tough schedule? Outside of at Oregon and at Iowa and being on the road, I give you a little more love for those two. Outside of those 2 games, you didn't test yourself in the non-conference. I mean, you played Kennesaw State, you played Indiana State. Like, who? Okay, one of them's an FCS team. Like, big whoop for you. But when you really break it down and you look at their non-conference opponents' overall records in and out of conference, and you look at their conference opponents' overall records in and out of conference, you're talking about teams that are barely above the equator, at the equator, or severely below the equator. Indiana has one of the easiest schedules in America, and that was my argument. Right. People look at me and they go, well, they're undefeated, Dan. What do you want me to do with it? They're undefeated. If that's your argument, then the committee owes an apology to UCF, Memphis, and a lot of other teams out there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, as much as I love Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback there at Indiana. I'm a big fan of Kurt Cignetti, what he did at James Madison and what he's done throughout his career. But I have to agree with you. I mean, I was at that Maryland game. Maryland had an interception. Fernando's first drive or first pass of the game, threw an interception, got him in like within the 30-yard line. They put 3 points on. They had by halftime, their first 6 possessions, the average field position was their own 41-yard line, and they had 3 points. So if that just doesn't show the kind of ineptitude, and a lot of that's coaching. They have a lot of young players. I mean, Malik Washington is true freshman. They don't have too many young guys on the outside pass catching for them. They do have decent, true freshman defensive players. But Zaire Mathis didn't play in that game either. But that's a whole other thing. But it just proves to the point where they're not facing quality opponents. And I think that's really, I mean, when it comes down to making decisions on how good a team's supposed to be, I think quality the quality of the opponent you're playing should be a major factor, especially when we're talking about a college football playoff.
We're in week 11, and I'm waiting for Michigan's quality win, USC's quality win. I'm waiting for Penn State to win a conference game. I'm waiting for Purdue to win a conference game. I'm waiting for Michigan State to win a conference game, and they're all on Indiana's schedule.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, how do you tell me that Indiana and they said, well, don't count out Penn State and Purdue. Penn State and Purdue are winless in the Big Ten. Yeah. I'm counting them out. I mean, if you beat Penn State this year, you're not beating Joe Paterno.
No.
You're not beating a college football playoff caliber team. How many times this year did I say, show me Penn State? And what happened? Penn State was a fake top 3 team. Illinois was a fake top 9 team. And when people argue with me and say, you can't fault us for beating a top 10 team at the time of play. No, I'm not faulting you. But when you beat Illinois at the time you beat them, it was considered a quad 1 win. Illinois is not a quad 1. They're a quad 3 now.
Right.
So the way I look at it, and that's how I break it down. You can't sit here and argue that a win over Clemson matters. And this is what I'll say to an Indiana fan about Illinois. If you think Illinois is a quality win, then Alabama's loss to Florida State is a quality loss because Florida State was in the top 10 at one point.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to give credit to Florida State and to Clemson and to LSU if you're going to give credit to Illinois. And so it's very easy as a fan to not look. And I tell people this all the time. You can't simply say we have 3 ranked wins because Florida was ranked.
Yeah.
Boise State was ranked. You can't just say we beat a ranked team because it's all about where the team ends. You are punished by the team you beat or lost to. What do they become later on in the season?
Right.
I mean, a win over Miami now doesn't mean as much.
Yeah.
So if SMU had 1 or 2 losses, SMU should be in the conversation for the college football playoff. What sucks is that they lost 2 non-conference games early on in the season. They had a barn burner against Baylor and they lost by 3. SMU, I'm not surprised they won that game. But you look at a team like SMU, Duke, Virginia, Louisville, Pitt, Georgia Tech, they're all alive to play in the ACC championship game. Miami's not. So you got all these teams alive to play. and you're saying the ACC is below the Big 12. Does the Big 12 have 5 to 6 teams with 3 games to go still alive to play in their conference tournament? If the ACC is that undecided and that difficult, why are we grading BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah above them? By the way, BYU plays Texas Tech this week, so they're going to knock this thing out real quick. Texas Tech doesn't have enough of an argument. If BYU beats Texas Tech is done.
That's what I think too.
Mark my words. BYU and Texas Tech will make a decision for the committee this week. The decision will be made. And I'm going to tell you how 2 ACC teams get into this. I'm going to show you the mind trick, the Doctor Strange effect here of this. Virginia has 1 loss.
Yeah.
Louisville has 1 loss. If they win out and they're both 11-1 and they play in the ACC championship and Louisville loses to Virginia and Virginia's 12-1 and Louisville's 11-2, Louisville's 2 losses are to the same team in Virginia. And in that case, if Virginia gets in at 12-1, then you got to put Louisville in because they have 2 losses, but it's to 1 team.
Yeah, that just mind freaked me, man. I'm about to start calling you Chris. About to start calling you Dan Angel. Mind freak. You know, I mean, honestly, man, I can't disagree with anything that you're saying there. And I think that would be I think that would just be better for parity's sake too. And I think when talking about quality, the fact that ACC is not given as much love when they do have a plethora of 1 loss, 2 loss teams in there where they could make a run. I think that's just, it's disappointing. It's disappointing to see that, the group of 5 teams kind of get shut out for a Tennessee team. I mean, Tennessee shouldn't even be at 25. That one was completely absurd to me. But it's just, I think we're going to see maybe after this week, we see a different, change in dynamic. But Dan, before I let you get out of here, man, I wanted to get your thoughts on, do you have any other remaining thoughts on the playoff? If it changes, how much these rankings could change next week, because we do have some decently big matchups. And what are you expecting to see come out of this from a sense of team selection? I guess I'll say,
if Alabama wins and Texas A&M, Ohio State, or Indiana loses, like right now in this moment, actually not even let's take Texas A&M out of it because they didn't play a tough schedule. And between Ohio State and Indiana, they have 3 tough games. If Indiana or Ohio State loses, Alabama, that 1-loss Alabama team, right now, whether people want to admit it or not, that's your best team in the country. That's your best team in the country right now. It is. They have that bad loss, which is, I understand why you can't rank them there, which is why I didn't rank them there.
Right.
But Alabama is your best team in the country right now. And I think the college football playoff, I'm telling you this right now, there's going to be 3 teams from the Big Ten. There's going to be Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, probably. I would love to see Iowa fight their way up, but it's an uphill battle because the committee likes Ohio State and Indiana and Oregon. Now, let's say the ACC gets to Virginia and Louisville. Who's the quarterback of Virginia? Chandler Morris. Where did he play? Yeah. North Texas. Who's the quarterback of Indiana? Mendoza. He was on a not-so-great Cal team last year. So, and Diego Pavia's, I think he's a year younger than me, and he's still playing college football. Good for him. So, but I love Vanderbilt. And so go with me on this. 3 Big Ten teams, 2 ACC. So that's 5. Okay. Memphis. Let's say Memphis, that's 6.
Right.
I'm taking BYU, that's 7. I'm putting 5 teams in from the SEC. Alabama's making it. Georgia's making it. Texas A&M's making it. Ole Miss is making it. And right now, there's a 3-headed race for the final spot between Texas, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. And that is the story. You really think that Notre Dame, based on what they've done this year, on paper or off paper, on the field or off the field, Notre Dame's better than Texas, Notre Dame's better than Oklahoma, Notre Dame's better than Vanderbilt? I might give them Vanderbilt. Maybe. But if I'm taking a 2-loss team into the college football playoff, I am taking Texas. And the only reason why I'm taking Texas over Oklahoma is because they have the same record and Texas beat them head to head, or else I would take Oklahoma. I'm telling you this right now. This college football playoff, 5 SEC schools, they might have 6 if they only take one from the ACC. There's 5 SEC schools in this thing, and it is a good 5. Yeah. It is a really good 5. So, and keep in mind, the first round of the college football playoff, it matters who plays at home. Ohio State plays on the road against Tennessee. They maybe don't make it out of the first round. They don't win the whole thing.
Right.
Because look, every home team won. Yeah. Every home team won.
It matters.
And it matters. That first round matters so much. So my thoughts on the college football playoff, can it change? Yes. Is it fluid? Yes. Indiana fans, I put you number 1. Why are you quiet? And so, I'm surprised you didn't ask me about Syracuse because I interviewed 3 quarterbacks.
I was gonna, but we ended up.
I'm actually, I guess I should say this now. I've been warming up. So I'm getting ready for Miami. But do you have any questions for me about Syracuse now that it's become a very sad circus?
I do, but I have some guests waiting in the room, but I don't want to keep them too older. But I do want to talk Syracuse with you because we'll have to talk that maybe for next week because there's a lot of stuff going on with that between the quarterbacks. They ended up flipping a 4-star from Florida State, so maybe the people clamoring for Fran Brown to get fired probably should be closing their mouths in a turn.
Probably.
Yeah, probably a little bit. But Syracuse is very fascinating. I unfortunately won't be at the game, but I believe my reporter Brandyn Pokrass, if you're going down there, he will see you down there. I'll make sure he introduces himself to you because, I'm one of my good friends to be one of my other good friends. So I do appreciate you coming on the show, Dan. As always, man, just let everybody know where they can find you out on your social media and on your show.
Yeah, and shout out to Shane because I see him in the comments here. Yeah. So. Wake Up Call, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. And so you can check us out on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. My college football playoff show tonight is already up on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Podbean. It'll be shared on our social media, and Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. The website's wakeupcalldt.com. And it's a who wore it better between Stonehouse and I now that I just have a mustache. I was going to say
something to you about the mustache.
I'm looking at it right now. So, because I just interviewed Jack Stonehouse and I was like, it's like looking in a beautiful mirror. So, but I can't say why my goatee's gone, but you know what you can't say, but there's a reason why it's not here. And it's a really good reason. I just can't talk about it, but I don't want to keep Shane. Is Shane waiting?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay, well, Shane, I will be the opposite of Christian Bale to a lighting director. I will not yell at a Shane. You're a beautiful man. Have a great time with this guy over here, Thomas Christopher. But yeah, I'm happy that I got to jump on with you. I'm sorry that I'm making Shane wait again. Shane, please forgive me. I'll send you flowers.
No, he knows it. He loves it. He knows you're a good guy. He actually was asking if you were going to come on the show because he loves seeing you on the show as well, as do I, of course. Dan, thank you so much for coming on, man. And I think I'll see you soon, I think. But as always, I love you coming on, man.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Have a wonderful night. And College Football Playoff Committee, thank you. I'm happy that our minds are alike, at least for right now.
Yeah, Dan, that is Dan Tortora. Thank you, Dan, so much. I'll catch you next time, my friend.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah. That is Dan Tortora. You can find him at Call DT on X/Twitter. He can show his live Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can find him at all of his shows and his website and all of his content at wakeupcalldt.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're liking to the channel, subscribing. It's completely free to do. If it's a live show, comment. I will get to the comments. If you're on X/Twitter, if you're on Facebook, make sure to like the video, comment, retweet it. Share it. If you comments get back to you. If you comment after the show, I'll respond within 24 to 48 hours. I do have my next guest. He's been very patient waiting in the green room. I truly appreciate it. We're going to talk some Auburn football and some college football playoff. It is our own Shane Barrett. Shane, how are you doing, my friend?
I am fantastic. And Dan Tortora, you do not have to apologize. I come in, I guess, early technically so that I can listen to you. So I appreciate it, Dan.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to love that. Shane, before we start talking about Auburn and all the craziness that's happened there, I want to talk some college football playoff rankings with you. And
yeah, let's do it.
Were you surprised about? I mean, were you surprised about the rankings? Did anything catch your eye?
I'm looking through it now. I know y'all talked to Tennessee and them being 6-3. I don't know. There's a lot of 6-3 teams that I think are good football teams. I don't know if Tennessee is one of those.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if this is right, but I'm gonna toot my own horn here because I'm at least at the league winners. I'm the highest on Alabama. And I know they have that one loss to Florida State, but since that game, they've looked like a completely different team to me. I know they struggled a little bit with South Carolina, but that's just Shane Beamer, I think, and who South Carolina. I think South Carolina more lived up to their potential in that game necessarily than Alabama playing bad, if that makes sense. So I really like Alabama, and that hurts me to say as an Auburn fan, but they look like a really good football team. So I know I have them at 2. Committee has them at 4, probably rightfully so. Other than Texas at 11 is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I was surprised. I think that was a little high. I mean, the Alabama call is great. It's actually interesting, too, because Alabama could be the team that completely takes out Oklahoma, because I'm pretty sure Oklahoma is one of the – they have Texas and Oklahoma as, like, the first 2 teams out, and Alabama plays Oklahoma on November 15th.
Next week. Yep,
yeah.
It's homecoming, too.
Yeah, so that's – I mean, if Alabama beats them, you have to assume they're out for good, and if Oklahoma pulls up the upset, I don't even know what ends up happening there.
Lord.
Things could get very crazy if that ends up happening. The rest of it, I mean, seems kind of chalkish. I mean, Tennessee's really the only one. Notre Dame, I don't know if 10's really right. I want to see. I think the rest of their season's going to be interesting because they play Pitt. Pitt's a good team. I think they play Navy. Is it Navy this week?
They play Navy this week, yeah.
Yeah, and I know. And
Navy's the spread was surprisingly. In that game, the spread was surprisingly large in Notre Dame's favor. I took Navy in that, in a spread.
Oh, is it really that high?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, Notre Dame's put some good wins in, but they beat NC State, which NC State, surprised Georgia Tech. They did beat USC, but I think USC at 20 is a little bit high, maybe. They have them at 19. Yeah, it's a little.
That one's high for me too. I've got them at 23 in our rankings. And that's just once you get past, we'll call it 17 for me, which is Texas. 18 through 25 is kind of, I don't want to say crapshoot, but they all feel interchangeable, and they keep they'll win a game that I think is we'll call it a quality-ish win. We'll call it a quad 2 win, I guess. But then they go and lose the next week to maybe a quad 1 opponent, and they lose by, let's say, 10 points. And it's okay, then they need to drop back a little bit. But then they go and win another decent game, and it's okay, where do they all end up shaking out? And I think they'll end up, because I know probably some of them are going to end up playing each other at some point or playing a tougher opponent and end up losing. So they're all interchangeable in that range for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I did want to ask you this quickly before we go to some Auburn stuff. Are you surprised that no Group of 5 team ended up making the top 25 there?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, Memphis. I was surprised Memphis didn't potentially get on there.
I've Tulane's flirted with there. Oh, there's one other. Oh, South Florida.
Yeah.
South Florida's flirted with being in the top 25. So I'm actually very surprised that not a single one made it in.
Yeah. Obviously in the actual playoff, I think they picked Memphis, if I'm not mistaken, to play Georgia. I think that's a horrible matchup for Memphis, personally. I think USF probably has a better shot considering they beat Florida, who Georgia kind of had a little bit of problem with in that cocktail party game this past week. But that was a little surprising to me. I thought they would have won a lot easier than that. But there's a lot of surprises. I guess that's a good segue into speaking about a surprise that's not really a surprise.
It's not.
We've been doing a countdown of it.
I've been hinting at it for weeks now.
Yeah, for the Hugh Freeze fire prediction. This past week, it ended up becoming true in the game of the loser fires their head coach.
Yep, I told you.
And you hit the nail on the head there. So, I mean, I'm not going to ask, are you surprised that it happened? But what were your thoughts when it happened?
Relief feels like the wrong answer. As a fan, relief was definitely a feeling. No, I think the timing was right. It made a lot of sense. And Mike Gittens, I think is his name. He's a great follow if you're into Auburn football for any reason. He works at their War Report. He kind of tweeted out some more of the details behind the process of getting to where we finally landed with firing Hugh Freeze. And they had mentioned that they had actually started to negotiate a buyout after the Missouri loss. Hugh basically rejected that. And so then they went and beat Arkansas, obviously. And obviously, like we've talked about, I think, or I at least put in the articles, the offense really scored 6 field goals and 1 touchdown in that game, and the defense scored another touchdown. So the offensive production still wasn't there, especially when your defense forced, I think, 4 turnovers in the Arkansas game. So then you go to Kentucky, or you don't go to Kentucky. Kentucky comes to your house, Jordan Hare, night game, and you put up 3 points. And the only reason you put up 3 points is because a freshman linebacker, true freshman linebacker, intercepts a pass and gets you into field goal range.
Yeah, that was
like
insane. I was when I saw the score, I think I texted you. I was like in shock. I'm like, wait, they only scored 3 points against Kentucky?
Yeah, the second worst defense in the SEC from a scoring perspective, and they only scored 3 points. I like at that point I was like, it's got to be done. Like, you got to fire him.
Yeah, and then now Auburn, I guess, has a chance to play spoiler to Vanderbilt and Alabama if it gets to that point. But I guess more importantly, obviously you wrote an article about this, but for people who haven't, read the article who are listening now, who do you think could potentially be the right guy for the Auburn Tigers going forward? And who are your what are your candidate lists and what do they look like?
Yeah, so I'll start with the candidate lists. And first I'm going to introduce the betting odds. So odds open with Kenny Dillingham, James Franklin at plus 400 and Brent Key plus 750. And then Joe Fisher at plus 750 also. And then there's some other names that we'll get into, but those were the betting odds when they open. Now it's John Summerall plus 150, DJ Durkin plus 200, James Franklin still at plus 400, Dillingham's dropped to plus 900, and Brent Key has dropped to plus 1,200. So to ultimately answer the list question, the guys I put in the article are, you got DJ Durkin, who's the interim head coach. This is a long-term interview for him with 3 to 4 games if they go to a bowl game, which I'm assuming they will, unless things go really south. But again, I think the energy and because DJ Durkin said it in his first press conference as interim head coach, is not even like the what they're doing, it's the how they're doing it when it comes to practice and things like that. Because the defense, and I know this is like, if you played, like, this is going to make sense to you, but if you haven't played, like, you're going to be like, why does that matter? The defense stretches together as an entire unit.
Yeah.
And the offense split and stretched by position group.
Yes.
And so it's little things like that where now I think the offense is going to start stretching together as a full unit. Hell, the whole team might start stretching together. But it's little things like that that build those habits, because obviously the culture and the mindset on the defensive side has not been the problem, because the defense has been lights out. So I think Durkin gets a chance to prove like his philosophy, his scheme, all that works as the head coach of Auburn. So he's one. Then you've got the 2 former Auburn coaches, really 3, because I think Eli Drinkowitz coached at Auburn at one point. So Lashley, Dillingham, and Drinkowitz. And then you've got kind of the outsiders group is what I think I called it in the article. And that's John Sumrall, Lane Kiffin. God, who are the other two that I put? Oh, Brent Key. And who was the fourth one? There's a
Was
fourth
it
one.
Lashley?
No, he was a former Auburn guy.
Oh,
I can't remember.
Yep.
But so I'll just rattle off the list. Durkin, Lashley, Dillingham, Sumrall, Kiffin, Brent Key. I think Clark Lee should be considered. I think Fran Brown should be considered. I think Jeff Brom should be considered. Lane Kiffin, I think I already said that. Ryan Silverfield is a name from Memphis that I've heard. And now that I've actually done a little research on him, I'm like, oh, okay. You have my interest now.
Silverfield is a good guy for sure.
So that's kind of the list. And I think there may be one or two other guys I'm forgetting, but the train of thought that like Auburn fired Hugh at the wrong time, like there's too many people, like it's going to be a saturated market, I disagree with, because I think there's plenty of candidates who are good candidates.
Yeah.
And I think you and I talked about it last week. Maybe there's two key pieces to at least Auburn recruiting continuing to succeed from a, we'll call it staff and personnel standpoint for the actual football team. And that's DJ Durkin on the defense and Deuce Knight on the offense. Because Auburn has, I can't remember what his title is, but there's a staff member named Kenyatta Watson who is heavily involved in the recruiting aspect. And he's phenomenal.
Right.
I wish I could remember his title, but he is the key cog when it comes to the recruiting staff.
He is considered the assistant GM.
Thank you. He's phenomenal. So with him being there, I don't see a huge drop off in recruiting with Hugh being let go. But Durkin staying is going to help keep the defensive guys, because there's guys that he's recruited that live in the state of Maryland that are key pieces to the 2026 class that are going to be huge to hold the rest of the class together. And then the promise of the future, like we talked about, is Deuce Knight. We want to see Deuce Knight going forward. We want to play with Deuce Knight. Like that's what these players, that's what these recruits have been promised. And so if you can keep him, I think one, the whole roster stays together, but then two, the recruiting class sticks together for the most part too. But they did lose a guy to Memphis, running back Eric Perry did flip to Memphis, but I've been really long-winded in this answer. Dan
Tatora actually sent me a text. He says, "Tell Shane that he can't have John Sumrall." Hashtag roll wave. Even though I'm pretty sure that's like your dark horse guy that you've wanted. You want Sumrall, don't you?
I do. So to get to the answer to be the head coach, my number one answer is John. He has a mentality of a Pat Dye, and he's got the winning mentality, and people I am jumping from Troy to Tulane to Auburn, and the jump from the group of five to the SEC. And my counterpoint to that has always been John Sumrall, one, is from Alabama. He's from Huntsville, Alabama. Two, he played in the SEC. And three, he coached in the SEC. The difference between him and Napier and Harsin is Napier did have coaching experience at Alabama prior to coaching at Florida. He was a wide receivers coach. But his playing career was spent at Furman. Shout out Furman, go Dens. And then Harsin's entire career, basically, other than I think Eastern Oregon,
Boise, right?
And Arkansas State, he's been at Boise. He played at Boise. He was a grad assistant at Boise. He coached at Boise.
Yep.
He left Boise, came back to Boise, and then became Auburn's head coach. So he didn't have any connections in the South. And I heard somebody today say that doesn't matter as much because of the NIL and whatnot, but at that time it did matter. And he didn't try to acclimate himself to Auburn in any way. And I've heard he didn't even try to recruit. And I think I mentioned that in the article. Like,
yeah.
he didn't even try to recruit, and that's the problem, and why, like, I hated it for Hugh Freeze because I really did want him to succeed, and I thought he was taking the right steps toward there. But after having 2 top 10 recruiting classes, I just felt like Freeze at this point had to go because you had the talent. You got the talent influx there, and the ways you were losing pointed directly back at you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about how great the defense has played this year. And by the way, Dan also said he thinks Summerall to Auburn is very real. You know, part of the points that you alluded to as well. But I mean, how many times have we said, the Auburn defense only gave up like 10 points, or the Auburn defense, you know?
They're one of 3 teams that have held all of their opponents this season to 24 points or less. The other 2 are the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. How insane of a stat Auburn. That is. Yeah. And from the outside looking, you're just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But then if you look at it and you see that Hugh Freeze is just, I love the point that you made that it's all coming back and pointing like directly at him, because the running attack, like, he's the offensive guru. You know, he's not getting Cam Coleman involved. He's not getting, I'm going to blank on the other receiver's name right now.
Eric Singleton.
I apologize. Yes, Eric Singleton.
Thompson,
he's barely getting involved. Like, the running game is not working really, like, at all. And it's all just offensive problems.
That was the frustrating thing, is the run game did work, but he would not stick with it.
Yeah, they had that one game where they ran for like 200 yards or something,
well,
and then just
week 1 against
again.
Baylor.
Yeah, against Baylor of all teams.
Week
too.
1 against Baylor, Jeremiah Cobb and Damari Alston both had, I think, 15 carries, almost 100 yards each, and a touchdown. And Jackson Arnold had over 100 yards by himself. And it's like, why are we not running the ball more?
Yeah, it's very insane to even think about. And I think Hugh Freeze going is, you know, like we said, it was the right move. I mean, obviously nobody wants to see somebody go, because Hugh isn't like a bad guy or anything either.
No,
you know, it was interesting when they lost the team captain. I think things started kind of spiraling from there. And it's kind of gotten to a point now where, okay, you kind of have to let Freeze go. I think that Missouri, what you stated earlier when you first got on, that they were talking about a buyout after the Missouri game, I think that is very interesting, because I don't think that's when we started kind of talking about it a little bit, of him being gone, and then it actually, you know, ended up happening. Realistically, not just from your perspective, but let's just say from an Auburn, let's say you're Auburn's AD, who are the 3 guys you're calling up and like, okay, I want you to replace you?
The first, I'm gonna cheat and give you 4.
Okay.
The first 4 names are Lane Kiffin. I'm making him tell me no. Then I'm calling John Summerall, and then I'm calling Rhett Lashley and Kenny Dillingham. Those are the 4 guys that I do too. And so here's my thing, is like, there's a contingent of Auburn fans, and I'm technically part of them, that could not stand Gus as a. I made the joke on here, I think, before. He calls 4 plays. Okay?
Oh yeah, Gus Malzahn. Yeah.
Yeah, he calls 4 plays, and by the end of his tenure, it had been figured out. And I think kind of I don't want to say it's the exact same thing, but a similar thing happened with him and Freeze, where his offense was figured out. He wasn't doing a good enough job as just the CEO and recruiting, where Freeze was recruiting. But people, because of Gus and what happened with him, they don't want anything to do with his former assistants. So they're kind of ruling out like Dillingham and Lashley, and I think even Eli Drinkwitz. And for me, I'm able to separate, and this is where I think I separate from that group of people, is like Rhett Lashley and Kenny Dillingham have both been good coaches outside of what they did with Gus.
Right.
Like, Rhett Lashley is 6-3 this year with SMU. Kenny Dillingham is 6-3 with Arizona State. They both made the college football playoff. That's both more wins than Hugh Freeze or Brian Harsin has had in the last 5 years for Auburn.
Yeah.
And their recruiting budget, this is where Like, if anyone wants to read my article, this is the one fact that I want you guys to pull from it when it comes to these candidates is every single one of them, including Lane Kiffin, is recruiting at half the budget or way less
Yes, I was shocked when I read that.
than what Auburn has. Auburn's average NIL deal this year and last year, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was 120K and 142K.
Yeah, it's insane.
I think Ole Miss's highest was 71K. And like Arizona State, Tulane, and even SMU are all averaging like 15K.
Yeah, and low.
So if you put someone who's a good football coach, like Sumrall, like Lashley, like Dillingham, into Auburn with that amount of resources, and like with Lashley and Dillingham, they've already been at Auburn. They know like what it's like to be loved back by Auburn. Like they get it. And then you get the resources that they have compared to what you have now. Like, that's why it's been so frustrating with Hughes. Like, you've spent all this money. You have the talent. Why the hell can we not score more than 3 points against Kentucky? Why are we kicking 6 field goals against Arkansas? Those are the 2 worst scoring defenses in the SEC, and we can't put up more points on them?
Yeah, that was nuts to me. Absolutely nuts. And, you know, I think that the recruiting thing, for anybody who hasn't read the article, make sure you guys check it out. It's at the League Winners website, theleaguewinners.com. Go on the SEC page, you'll find it. It's under the Hugh Freeze article. Just the numbers looking at the NIL per play, that was insane. That was like eye-opening.
That's why I put it in there, because I was like, I don't care. Like, a good, and you increase their budget by this much, like they're
they're gonna end up making moves now. Auburn's kind of stuck, and Dan's coming in. Stop making good points about Summerall and Lashley. Because who knows, with all the job openings, some other teams might end up trying to poach them too. But Shane, going forward, obviously, Auburn still has stuff to play for. They can play spoiler. Obviously, DJ Durkin wants to play hard on his resume. Going forward for the their final 3 games, at Vandy, and then they hold Mercer, which is a gimme game. But then they host Auburn at the end of the year. How realistic do you think it is that Auburn can finish 2-1 and hit a bowl game under Durkin?
I knew where you were going with this question, and I still wasn't like.
I try to send a little bit of some hard ones.
So I mean they're bowl eligible once they beat Mercer because they've got 5 wins. No, they have 4 wins, right? Yeah, they have 4 wins. So they gotta win 2. Man,
they should have 5 wins or more than 5 wins, but that's for a different discussion.
Oh, okay. So here, I'll go game by game with Vanderbilt. It's at Vandy. The magic of Diego Pavia, specifically with Auburn, was really Pavia versus Freeze and Clark Lee versus Freeze. So now going in with a different coaching staff, potentially different offensive philosophy, Derek Nix's play caller, and we talked about it, I think, a little bit a couple weeks ago, the fired coach theory that I have, where you fire your coach, those 18 to 23-year-olds are going to play their ass off for whoever's next. It's why I picked UAB to upset Memphis and nailed it. So I think there's a lot of things going in favor of Auburn to upset Vanderbilt. Plus, Vanderbilt is coming off of a loss, and they still have a couple of key games after Auburn. There's a tweet circling around Auburn Twitter that, holy crap, Vanderbilt sees Auburn as a trap game, which, what the hell?
That's crazy to think about.
So, I don't know. I'm going to say they pull that one off. And then Mercer, like you said, it's a gimme game. So that gets them to bowl eligibility.
Yeah.
And then we come to the Iron Bowl.
Yeah.
It's at Jordan-Hare. Alabama is playing for their seeding in the playoffs essentially at that point. And I don't know. I can't give you a prediction on that one right now. Like, it's too crazy. Like, so here's the thing. I work in Tuscaloosa, right, where University of Alabama is. All of my coworkers are Alabama fans. A lot of the people I deal with on a day-to-day basis are Alabama fans.
Right.
And I texted one of my coworkers. I was like, if Hugh Freeze is still the head coach at the Iron Bowl, we're going to lose 42-3.
Yeah,
I truly
probably.
believe that. And not even like, no offense to DJ Durkin. It had nothing to do with the defense. It's just that's how
Right.
little faith I had in Hugh Freeze, and that the Alabama offense has been clicking and they were going to beat the brakes off of us. Now it's really going to depend on kind of how this Vanderbilt game goes. And here's the other thing that we haven't
By
talked
the way,
about yet. Thomas.
Dan said happy 35th birthday to Diego Pavia.
He's older than me, and I've graduated in 2017. But the thing we haven't talked about yet, Thomas, though, is who's the quarterback?
That's what I'm very curious to see what happens. Has he not announced anything yet?
He hasn't announced anything yet. But the difference, again, in the press conference between Hugh and DJ was Hugh Freeze always said it was a 2-quarterback race. It was always Ashton and Jackson.
Right.
Durkin came in on Monday and said, we have 3 good quarterbacks on this roster, meaning he's considering Deuce Knight.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So,
do you think he will start him? I mean, gun to your head, do you think he
has to start him for at least Mercer?
I would think so. Yeah.
I
play a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, because the thing is like Ashton Daniels has 2 games left that he can play to still redshirt.
Right.
So if they want to keep the redshirt on Daniels, you have to start someone else at Mercer.
Yeah.
And if I swear to God, if we go back to Jackson Arnold, I'm going to rip what little hair I have out of my head. Okay. It's not even Jackson's fault. It's not even because I don't want to see Jackson. It's because I want to see Deuce. And
Right.
I think other fans want to see Deuce. The team wants to see Deuce. Now, when it comes to Vanderbilt, I have no clue. I truly have no clue. But to me, there's almost this. You start Deuce against Vandy. You give him the Mercer game. And then, depending on how he plays, you either keep it with him or you go back to Ashton for the Iron Bowl.
Right.
And the one thing that I think would maybe make me lean more towards Ashton versus Deuce in the Iron Bowl specifically is, even though Saban is gone, Alabama struggles with mobile quarterbacks. They have for years. And I think I don't know as much about Deuce's running game. He's obviously a good athlete, but Ashton is dynamic in the running game. And so I think seeing him in the running game against Alabama could be a huge factor for that game. Especially because at that point, if what I say happens and they beat Vandy, they beat Mercer, then you're battling for 7-5 and can get to 8-5 with the bowl win too.
Right.
And that's a good season, especially with considering you fired your coach more than halfway through.
Yeah, I would agree. By the way, Dan comes in. He said Ashton's my guy. He wants to hear your overall take on Ashton.
On Ashton, I think. In the Arkansas game, he was if Jackson Arnold comes back in the second half, Auburn loses that game. Ashton, he didn't play. And again, I'm not trying to just shit on Jackson Arnold. I apologize. He's a good kid. And I think, you and I've talked about with him and with Thorne, I don't really know how much was on him.
Right.
And the thing that I gave him credit for versus what we saw with Thorne last year is we as fans complained about things that Jackson Arnold didn't do well. And then Jackson Arnold, to me, went and improved upon those things.
Right.
And he had just run out of rope by the time the Arkansas game happened. So then Ashton comes in and he's making quick decisions. He's leading the offense. And not just quick decisions with passing, but he also if he had the opportunity to pull it and run himself, he was making that decision and going. Whereas Jackson, when he had the opportunity to pull it and run, he for some reason wouldn't, even though he's a dynamic runner. And I don't know, like, did Freeze change some of the play calls to where he gave Ashton that option, or he didn't, and he was just saying, you run it this time, versus letting Jackson read it.
Right.
And so, I mean, I would love for Ashton to come back and either compete next year to be the starter or to be a solid veteran backup, because, I mean, you never know what happens with injuries, or, I mean, if Deuce doesn't stay, like, Ashton's a key piece in this too, I think.
Yeah, having a veteran backup is key. I mean, I know we didn't get to talk about it for time constraints, but Syracuse could have used a good veteran backup quarterback when Steve Angeli got injured. Now we've kind of seen with, Ricky Collins, a guy who's had three, four starts, and then two true freshmen come in, and it's hard to do. With Auburn, having a guy like Deuce Knight waiting in the rings, though, you want to see what he can do. Because he's there. There's an opportunity now with the coach gone and Jackson Arnold not performing well, where it gives him an opportunity to kind of leapfrog Ashton, kind of be the guy. And if not, Ashton is a guy who can compete. It'll be interesting to see how that sorts itself out by the end of the year. Yeah. But before I let you go, I did want to get your and Dan says you can keep Ashton if you keep your hands off of Rhett Lashley and Summerall for the head coach.
I can't make any promises there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Those are my guys, man.
But before I let you go, obviously it's going to be hard to guess how the game turns out because we don't necessarily know who the quarterback's going to be. But to the best of your ability, how do you think this game against Vandy plays out? And I know we talked about them potentially being a spoiler, but how do you think that spoiling ends up happening?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back to the game last year, Auburn really contained Pavia well. He really did not have a good game against Auburn last year, and they just weren't able to score. So I think that's ultimately going to be what it comes down to. Ballparking it, I think it's going to be something like 24-21, 21-17, something in that range. I think it's going to still be close, probably still low scoring, just because both teams have good defenses. And so I think that's ultimately what it ends up being. Auburn's going to have to slow down Pavia and probably force a couple of turnovers and then rely on the run game. Like, give it to Jeremiah Cobb. Darrell Robinson is back and healthy after his thigh contusion. Like, get him involved. Omar Mabson, the freshman, has looked good. So that's how I would do it, is stop him on defense and run the ball. Since I have the mic, Thomas just texted me and said that his StreamYard died, so I will hold it here until there he is.
I apologize. I just heard a big something happened outside, and I can only assume that something happened. I'm actually running on my phone's mobile hotspot now, so I'm not sure how much time I'll have in here before I lag out. Dan Satori came in, and I'll set you throwing Brian Kelly and 2 milk duds for that. So I do.
Wait, he's offering me Brian Kelly. Does he know who I am and how much I hate Brian Kelly?
I think that might have been why. But yeah,
man, Brian Kelly is my least favorite coach on the face of the planet, and I had to face Nick Saban for 12 years.
Yeah, there's not many good things about Brian Kelly. Yeah, especially his Notre Dame tenure was not great. But before this ends up, and he says it's because he loves you, and he's gonna make it 3 milk duds. But before my hotspot ends up dying, Shane, please let everybody know where they can find. I apologize that I have to wrap up so quickly now. I just don't want to have it happen again. So Shane, let everybody know where they can find you on your social media.
Yep, follow me right there. At FF Shane on Twitter, and go check out the League Winners. That's where all of my content is right now.
I appreciate you so much for coming on, Shane. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. See you.
That is Shane Berry. You can find him on X at FFX. Now Twitter, whatever you call it, at FF Shane B. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to get out of here fast because I have no idea how long this is going to last, and I do not want to die again. Theoretically speaking, of course, nobody actually died in the filming of this podcast. But this is Thomas Christopher. We didn't get to talk Syracuse ball because of time constraints, but we will talk it next time. Maybe Dan will be fortunate enough to have us. Make sure you guys follow Dan at CallDT on X/Twitter. This is Thomas Christopher. I apologize for the late getting out of here, but I'm getting out of here. Until next time.